My fellow Americans, let me begin by congratulating the team at NASA and our brave astronauts on the successful launch of Artemis 2. It was quite something. It will be traveling further than any manned rocket has ever flown and will very substantially pass the moon, go around it, and come back home from a distance that has never been done before. It's amazing.
Roger, roll pitch. The integrity, AMT high.
Due to that suit being pressurized and expanded, as well as the umbilicals being connected.
We are now falling to the moon rather than rising away from Earth. It is an amazing milestone.
We are standing by for the Integrity crew aboard Orion to surpass the Apollo 13 record.
Integrity, we're now resuming operational audio contact.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, would you believe it? He's here on a bank holiday Monday. A very good morning to you. Welcome along. It is, of course, Talk, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock Brit. Maybe like Mark, you've been encouraged to go to work today because you're getting more money because it's a bank holiday. We're just here doing our stuff. Lovely to be here. How's it been? It's going to be nice today. Christian's just reminded me the barbecue sales have gone up 300%. That'll be fun. What are you waking up to? Loads and loads of stuff as ever. Please do involve yourself on the show. You can ring right now, 0344 419 1000. We'll take your voice notes. We don't have to be serious. We'll give you some other stuff at the end of this. You can also text the show, 87222. Listen, he's never here, Keir, is he? And he's decided, with the local elections days away, it would be a really good idea to fly off to Armenia. Not to relocate, which would actually be very nice, but because he's going to apparently tell the European leaders that in our interest, that's the UK's, we need to be closer to the EU and pay him £1 billion for the privilege. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we'd left. But no, we're going back. We're getting closer and closer under this wonderful Prime Minister who is a complete disgrace. And while we're talking about disgraces, I've held on to this for a week. Is it just me, or is Zack how does 18% of my country support a man who is prepared to say where two brave policemen who do not know whether a guy who's, by the way, could I say, just stabbed two people for being Jewish and has a rucksack on, might well have an incendiary device for kicking him in the head. That was disproportionate, and he's taken out his ire on Metropolitan Police officers. I don't know if you saw this at the weekend. He was on Kunzberg and he was on Trevor Phillips on Sky, and he squirmed. Is it not time that we asked a serious question? Is this man... Sorry, Zack Palansky, let's forget the jibes about his ex-job. Let's just be honest about this, shall we? Every single socialist, Marxist, communist weirdo that voted for Corbyn, who, by the way, at least believed what he said rather than just grabbed hold of it, is now joining Zack Palansky's march to wherever it's going. Is it me, or is the guy completely and utterly mad? 0344 499 1000. Bank holiday Monday. You might get in your car and think, I'm going off today. I'm going to have a nice time with the family. I'll drive to the beach or something. Don't go near London. New war on motorists announced yesterday by Labour. Cash-strapped councils, who are cash-strapped because they've screwed it up, by the way, could I point that out, are going to be allowed to double parking ticket charges to 160 quid. Great. So we're being taxed, we can't drive our car, we can't afford petrol, and Zack Palansky's a weirdo. And just, by the way, on Bank Holiday Monday, if you thought, because you're a hard-grafting alarm clock Brit who thought, you know what, I'd rather be at home, but double bubble or 1.5, or I should do my bit for my family. Do you know that research yesterday proved that over 600,000 households in this country last year received more in benefits than the average worker's family? Over 500,000 homes are better off sitting on their backsides than going to work. Why do we bother, I hear you scream? Tell you why. Because it's about doing the right thing, isn't it? It's about being motivated and putting food on the table for your kids. Where are you today in the UK? What are you doing? How are you feeling? 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Big Mark is here. Christian is in. Nahar is just a steadying influence. And we've got a new boy called Toby. He's answering your phones. Rory, I've got his name wrong. It's a great start. Rory, it was a joke. Didn't go down well. 0344, it's only a joke. 0344 499 1000. But the reason I've got a spring in my step and my hat is at a jaunty angle is she has climbed out of her holiday bed to join me. Poppy Coburn, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Yeah, very good. I'm working at the bank holiday.
Why
so
are we here on a bank holiday? What's going on? Because we care.
Because we care. Alarm clock Brit. My alarm clock did go up this morning. There you go.
I had a real freak in the middle of the night, by the way, right? I'm just going to share this with all of you. Do you know, like, the iPhone resets itself, right? You know, it has, like, updates where it switches itself off. Now, bear in mind, this is weird. I'm just going to share this with you, because I didn't say this to Christian already. So I go to bed at 9 o'clock, and I always set my alarm for 2, 2:05 and 2:10, right? For some reason, I wake up at midnight and my phone doesn't work. So I panic and think, I've got no alarm, how am I going to wake up? Yeah. And I lie there worrying about it, and then 10 minutes later it comes on because it's been updoing itself. But why did I wake up whilst it wasn't working?
I have that all the time.
That is genuinely a true story.
No, I have this all the time. Not when my phone's like updating itself, but when I know I have to get up early, I wake up 10 minutes before my alarm.
Do you?
It's like my body is like...
I do that, but I'm old. That's because I need a wee.
No, it's not for that reason. It's because my body's like, you don't miss this.
No.
I don't miss this.
Who would want to miss this vain attempt at a programme? 0344 499 1000. Where should we start? With the local elections just days away, never hear Keir's gone off to, look at her face, gone off to Armenia because he wants to give... Well, apparently it's in our national interest to have deeper links with the EU, and we're going to pay £1 billion. I thought we were skint.
Well, first of all, he seems to forget that he has a foreign secretary. Like, he doesn't actually have to go on all these business trips, holidays.
He prefers it abroad, doesn't he?
Yeah, but particularly when we're reading reports that jet fuel's about to run off in a month. It's probably because of Keir Starmer.
That's a good idea. Yes, yeah.
Probably because of Keir Starmer. I mean, forget the Strait of Hormuz. The amount of times that man has left the country and then returned is completely unbelievable. But yeah, the whole idea that you're going to get closer to the EU. Look, anyone who says that we would be better off if Brexit didn't happen, I invite them to actually look at Europe, you know, the place that they apparently want to get closer to but haven't bothered to research in a couple of years, and see how the European economies are doing. Because it looks to me, from my vantage point, like they have got no jobs, no growth, and massive debt, just like the UK. So if you want to, you think a problem shared is a problem halved, I'm not sure I completely agree with you, fine, then maybe we need to get closer. But if you understand that Europe does not have our answers, European economies need our support, not the other way around, because what they'll be doing is offloading all their youth unemployment. They'll just be dumping all the people that they don't want onto the British economy again. What
can you explain to me, because you know more than me? I always go with the argument that we voted to leave, and many people will say, yes, but we're not doing a good enough job. Fine, it should have been implemented more, and I lay that firmly at Boris Johnson's door. What is this obsession with getting closer to you? If I explain from my point of view to you as a journalist, so I voted, and I'm allowed to say this, to leave because I thought it was high time that Britain stood on its own 2 feet as an island, made better things, proved that we could make good things and be successful and sold them in the world instead of got told what to do by Europe. That's me being complete. That was my premise for voting to leave the European Union. Not patriotism or pride, but just prove that we can do it.
Yeah.
We've gone backwards. Nothing grows, nothing works.
Well, we haven't proven anything, have we?
No. Absolutely nothing.
Well, what we've proven is that we're more like Europe than we want to admit, which is that we've totally swallowed hook, line and sinker the regulatory attitude to life, which is you don't want to take any risks, you don't want to grow, you don't want to go out and start businesses, you just want to sit there and ban things. I mean, that's what the European Union does.
Yep.
But look at our own parliament. They've got this massive majority, and what have they used it to do?
Nothing.
Ban, 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 ban. They haven't actually
Quango.
They've done nothing to actually help the economy. They've done nothing to help businesses. In fact, they've done the opposite. They've whacked a load of taxes on them. That makes it now impossible to deal with getting more employees in, getting young workers in because they're too expensive. And also, as we share this in common with Europe, we do not have a problem where we have a shortage of workers. We have a shortage of people who are willing to work. So the idea that we need to have European free movement is completely false. We have millions of people in this country who are totally capable of working, but do not do so because their benefits are too high.
Well, I might as well add into the mix before I bring it back to Starmer. For you, more than 600,000 households, we found out yesterday, received more in benefits last year than the average worker's salary. 625,000 households were each given more than 32,200 quid in welfare payouts. Yeah. So where's the incentive to go to work then for people right now on bank holiday Monday? Why would you get out of bed?
Well, it's a really good point.
Why did you get out of bed this morning? Why didn't we just stay? That didn't sound right. I said, why didn't we just stay in bed? But you know what I'm trying to say. Why don't we all just stay in bed and take for doing nothing? But that's not how I was brought up.
No, but this is the problem. The system has become... The incentives now are do nothing at all. And if you are someone that works hard, you feel like a mug. But, yeah, it is important to say this, that we would not have a migration crisis if someone in government had actually sat down and gone, right, so we've got millions of people who aren't working, can't work, and we're bringing in millions of people who only want to come here. And let's be frank, this is with the ILR changes, the people who are working in the care sector. Why do you think they want ILR changes? Well, so they can get settled status and then claim benefits. They don't want to keep working for terrible wages.
And it's really weird listening to you say that, because I said this for absolutely years. If we look at 8 million people on some form of benefit, and by the way, if you're waking up, this is not a criticism of the genuine. In fact, the point is this. The genuine are missing out because people are screwing. I always thought to myself, well, let's say 2 million, being nice, aren't mentally ill, disabled. And then I hear that fruit pickers, hospital workers, porters, whatever it is, have to be imported. I would close that border and say to those 2 million, I understand you can't get anything you want right now, but you're not going to sit at home and do nothing. You're going to give something back to the community, and that is doing the jobs that you might... I hear it amongst... my son said to me the other day, well, I don't really want to do that. Well, that's not the way it goes. Yeah. You're going to do a job to earn money.
If you want to eat...
That's the way it goes, right? That's it.
That's the way... That should be the way the economy works, but that's not the economy that we have built. I mean, it's... The wages for a lot of these jobs are appalling. You know why they're appalling? Because the government has artificially kept them down because they've been importing people to do the jobs.
Absolutely agree with you.
Rather than saying to people, paying... It's an insane system that you couldn't make it up. We pay people to sit at home and do nothing. Then we import people to do jobs at wages that mean that those people who are sitting at home are going to go, hang on, so I make the same money or even less money for having to do really difficult
I'm not
work.
A business person, but that makes no damn sense at all,
of course it makes no sense. What you should do is have these jobs have a scarcity so the wages go higher because the companies want to hire people, and suddenly the people sitting around doing nothing at all go work in those jobs. I mean, also you have to probably give them a bit of a kick up the... proverbial.
Are you allowed to say that word? So you're waking up to the main... there's lots of news. She's absolutely right. It's now financially better for you to do nothing. But let's go back to Starmer. Yeah. Starmer is never here. He's in Armenia. His latest thing is we're going to give £1 billion to be closer to Europe. Can I take you back to 2023, people? You know the man that never, ever sticks to what he says. Check this out. This was 3 years ago.
I have repeatedly said that there's no case for going back into the EU, and that includes the single market and the customs union.
What a smug man. So you're just looking at me like I look at other people. Like, what's the point of even having this debate? Because he never tells the truth.
Well, he doesn't. Well, he literally, like, I've had so many nicknames for Keir Starmer in the last couple of weeks.
What now?
Yeah, which I'm not going to repeat.
Oh, good girl.
Most of them are not appropriate for being on air. But yeah, he's just completely dishonest. You know the truth. I've been saying this to people for a while. The only thing this government can do that is fiscally neutral, which means, you know, because they're Labour, they like to tax and spend, but they've got no money to spend. They are going to bring us back into Europe. Mark my words.
Yep.
That is going to be their election, you know, rabbit out of the hat. They are going to announce...
They won't win them the election.
Of course they won't win the election. But they'll do it anyway, because Keir Starmer was the biggest defender of a second referendum in this country. He was pushing Jeremy Corbyn when he was under the Labour Party, under his leadership, for a second referendum, to the extent to which people who like Jeremy Corbyn were even saying Keir Starmer is the reason we are losing at the election, because everyone hates our Brexit message. He was obsessed with the idea of coming back into the EU. I do not believe him at all when he pretends that he doesn't believe he wants to go back into the European Union. You can take it from his words himself. He sees an opportunity and he tries to bring us closer.
0344 499 1000. I'm desperate to move on to Zack Palansky, but I have to tell you this. The other thing about Starmer, of course, without getting into too much thing, people are obviously running around saying some of his allies over the weekend have said there will be a snap general election if you force Sir Keir out. Allies of the PM claim that none of his rivals have enough support to produce a stable government, but Andy Burnham's team have apparently asked Starmer's number 10 staff, would you be all right staying on if I became the MP? Let's just point this out. Andy Burnham ain't got a seat. Angela Rayner ain't paid her tax. Wes Streeting blew it. I don't care what anybody says. I think he absolutely blew it, because he knows that if it went to the Labour Party membership, he would not be elected. I found myself over the weekend, and I detest Starmer. Not as much... Well, yes, no, I do. Is he actually a better alternative than the fear of what might be? That's how bad it's got.
I think that's a very, very good point. I mean, I don't want to defend Keir Starmer.
No, I can't.
But what you have to say about the man, because he's such a lame duck, he can't actually do anything at the moment. No. Which means he can't come up with any of his stupid policies that the Labour Party wants to do, because he's basically powerless. If you replace him with Ed Miliband, with Angela Rayner, with Andy Burnham, I can promise you they'll do the same thing they always do when they go in power, which is, right, let's tax people a bit more, let's squeeze people a little bit more so we can send a bit more money on our favourite groups in society and leave you all worse off on your payment.
And by the way, I would never ask a woman her age. I'm old. I have seen this. When we were going through the general elections, the thing, I've said it many times to the people that listen, there's a thing you have to be very careful about how you broadcast. I was around in 1979 and it was absolutely dreadful. There were rubbish on the streets. There were no ambulances. The army were taking sick people to hospital because every single goddamn union in the world demanded 30%, and if they didn't get it from the left-wing government, they went on strike. All they do, the Labour Party, is give to people who, frankly, they feel deserve it, increase taxes, and then they print money and inflation goes through the roof. That is not an exaggeration. That is not a far-right... That is absolutely fiscally known. And I found myself sat there at the weekend thinking, God, Starmer's dreadful. I mean dreadful. Probably the worst Prime Minister in my lifetime. And yet, Angela Rayner, Ed Miliband, David Lammy. I love this. Do you remember Heidi Alexander? Is she the transport man? This is the woman who became famous a couple of weeks ago because she was off to do a press conference about, have you heard about this, about potholes? Yeah. And her government car hit a pothole and she had to get there in an Uber. She says people need to give their head a wobble. Have a listen, have a watch.
I think those people who think that we should have a leadership election now and repeat the mistakes that the Conservative government made in churning through prime ministers probably do need to give their head a gentle wobble at the moment, because in Keir Starmer, I see someone who is determined to take what he has learnt over the last 2 years of being Prime Minister and to build a stronger and fairer country for everyone. This is a serious man who wants to do the hard yards of serious government, and there are very serious international times at the moment.
very serious international times, that's where you miss the point. You need to wobble your own head, Alexander. The British people might be concerned and look at the Middle East and what's going on in Gaza and all that. They're actually concerned about the fact they can't afford to pay their bills. They're out working on a bank holiday Monday and we're giving it to everybody else. Well, that's the point.
Funnily enough, they don't want their Prime Minister jetting off on his holidays all the time. Well, so can I just say, why is everyone on the Labour front bench sound like they've been anaesthetised? Why have they all got the same droning voice? Is that something
do you want to do Heidi
have?
Alexander on a bank holiday Monday?
I don't think I can. No. I think I'd have to tranquillise myself before I could get there.
Brilliant. Damien in Nottingham. Morning, Damien. Says, Jezza, Pops, coming into work today trying to cover the cost of rising taxes. Thank you for making my morning go a little better. Bill from Romsey. Morning, JK and Pops. Am I missing something? Starmer has left the country again. Does he not realise he could be kicked out in 4 weeks? Or is he laying the groundwork to get a top job in the EU? See, now that a lot of people, Bill, will think that's cynical. I'm with you. Jane, morning, Jez. Been up since 5 as usual, just enjoying poached egg on toast. Brilliant. So Robot has gone off again in case somebody asks him a question. Are we allowed to drag him out of number 10? Nice blue shirt, by the way. Thanks, Jen. According to Julian in Newport. Oh, lovely. Why am I doing that? Happy bank holiday, Jez and Pops. Palansky has shown his woke stupidity with his comments on police officers in Golders Green, but further showed his absolute idiocy with retweeting the original post. But in addition, brilliant job by the coppers and for a change by Mark Rowley with his intervention. Morning, Pete, on the voice note.
Good morning, Jezza. Bank holiday Monday. Well, Zack Palansky. Where does this man come from? Where does this man come from with his crackpot ideas? Man is a clear and present danger to this country. He's not even an MP, right? So he shouldn't be plastered across the screens anyway. Oh yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. It's those woke channels out there, the BBC in particular, that like to put people like him up there so they can spout off their absolute rubbish, doesn't it? Anyway, Jez, have a nice day.
Poppy, there's a lot that makes me angry and I have to control myself, but Zack Palansky, I think, is... I agree with Pete. He's a danger.
He is.
And this sort of figure who's not an elected politician, he's an assembly member, isn't he, has become the focal point, in my mind, for every weirdo and left-wing socialist / communist / Marxist. So I don't even believe he believes what he says. Apparently he's a Jewish man, right? I absolutely understand that he's trying to hoover up votes by talking only about Gaza. But what he did was, there was obviously that terrible Golders Green terror attack last week. And he questioned whether the police used proportionate force. I'm going to keep saying this till I'm blue in the face. Not one of those brave men or women knew whether there was a detonating bomb in that bloke's rucksack. And while we're at it, could we please point out this guy... disproportionate. If he'd blown those officers up or the people in the street, would Palansky be saying the same thing? He then apologised because he was criticised by Rowley, right? But then he sort of backtracked again over the weekend. Let me be clear. The police aren't above scrutiny. I agree with that. Nobody is. But, Zack Palansky, you're missing the point. You're not reading the room. Listen to this, peeps.
I think you can both recognise the bravery of officers who run towards incidents that most of us, including myself, would certainly want to run away from, and find the appropriate forum to say that no one, especially the police, should be above scrutiny. The reason why I've apologised is I accept that wasn't the appropriate forum. As a member of the London Assembly, a place I know you know well, the Police and Crime Committee would be an appropriate place, or indeed a meeting with the Commissioner, which I'm pleased I've reached out and he's now agreed to. I do also think, by the way, open letters aren't an appropriate way to do politics either in a local election, but I accept all of that and I'll be having that conversation with the Commissioner.
What do you make of him?
I mean, look, I shouldn't laugh because you're right, he's dangerous.
He is.
He's a dangerous person. I think in the beginning, you know, we did treat him... He looks like a children's magician. He kept making all those comments about how he could...
he looks like a what?
Children's magician. Doesn't he? He looks like a magician you hire for a kid's birthday party.
I wouldn't.
That's really the vibe I get from him. But anyway, all the stuff about the boob whispering, you know, it's easy to kind of pass off Zack Palansky. But something came out really that was very interesting last week, and it was a video of him from years and years ago heckling Jeremy Corbyn, because at the time he was a member of the Lib Dems.
He was.
And he was heckling him about the European Union, and I thought, this is a total chameleon. He will say anything to get power. How do you go from being a Liberal Democrat to this week pretending he doesn't know who the Liberal Democrats are and completely disavowing them, to being the leader of the Green Party who doesn't care about green issues at all? who only cares about social justice and all the other, like Israel, Palestine, blah, 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 the kind of laundry list of progressive causes. But he is a dangerous person in politics because he's cutting through.
And I was reading, I've seen lots of stuff online, you know, Zelensky, it's wealth tax, it's billionaires and all that. You're criticising the police when you have no idea of what they were going through. And I have criticised the police on this station, you have. But in that instance, do you remember that case in Scotland where that Isla Bryson raped 2 women and then decided to change sex and came out of court in a pair of pink leggings, right? He defended her. I remember thinking at the time, everybody's missing the point. Isla Bryson raped 2 women and was put in a female prison. This piece of whatever, and he's an alleged suspect to go through, he stabbed 2 Jews simply for walking down the street.
Yeah.
Does Zack Palansky not understand?
I'm not even sure I necessarily believe in, like, the, you know, this is him dog whistling. I think he's an idiot. I think he genuinely, because he's never worked a real job in his life.
Does he not?
He doesn't understand. No, I mean, seriously, he was a failed actor. He's, like, jobbing around for years and years and years. He gets into politics in his 40s. He literally has achieved nothing in his life, OK? He is someone who, on the basis of charisma, apparently, has managed to move up through politics, through being a chameleon, being a shapeshifter, telling people what they want to hear.
What?
He's like, he changes his spots all the time, doesn't he, right? He pretends to be someone he's not. And what is he doing now? He doesn't understand why a police officer would use violence. I think this is someone who thinks that, like, violence is wrong in all instances. He doesn't understand, like, as we do, because it's common sense, if someone is allegedly stabbing people around Golders Green and there might be an active terror attack underway, and he's got a backpack and it could be a bomb, police officers are going to try and get him to drop his knife.
He'd have been shot in America, wouldn't he, on sight?
He would have been shot on sight completely. If you're walking around carrying a knife, yeah, you would. So, sorry, if you do have to kick someone in the head to get them to drop a knife, you'd kick them in the head to get them to drop a knife.
What society are we in, though, that there's now a debate led by people like Palansky. Oh, hold on a second. Live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, breaking news. Keir Starmer's arrived in Armenia.
Doesn't look very pleasant, does it?
No.
Grey skies. Grey skies.
What are the I love it in Armenia. I'm not interested. Palansky needs to be called out. I don't usually support everything the Daily Mail do, but they are not letting him get away with it. They are absolutely on Zack Palansky because it is time. This isn't about local elections. This is about a man who is hoovering up. I don't know what these people think. I don't know what these people are, but it frightens me that nearly 20% of our country think that's acceptable. Yeah. And I'm critical of the police when they have to be, but they did a damn fine job in that moment.
And I think it's important also to bring up what Zack Palansky said the week before, which is about the perception of safety. Like, if there's any place in society where there's a genuine crisis, it's clearly anti-Semitism. Yeah. It is not normal in the space of a month to have 3 arson attacks just in North London directed at Jewish spaces of worship. Absolutely. It is not normal to have people firebombing Jewish ambulances. It is not normal for a man to walk around with a knife just looking for people who look Jewish to stab them with. Like, the rhetoric... I don't even necessarily believe, by the way, that, like, the kind of woke lefties at dinner parties are directly connected to this, because, I mean... We can't talk about ongoing cases.
Do you know why I think he does what he says?
They are different groups of people.
I think he is absolutely after the vote of the people who walk through London and shout from the river to the sea and wave their Palestinian flags and are only interested in Gaza, and that's a separate debate. His assistant, Moin Ali, isn't that his name? Muffin Ali. I mean, diametrically opposed they are in terms of policy, if you think about it and you strip it down. I just think he needs to be called out. Listen, it's 6:20. Where's that first half an hour gone? We're doing no time things this morning because bank holiday, nobody gives it to us. Morning, Belinda.
Morning, Jeremy. Glad to see you in on Bank Holiday Monday. Excuse me. I'm just off to do a car boot sale really early, 7 o'clock start. So it should be a good day. Getting rid of loads of old tats so I can pay my gas and electric bill. Got to be done. Anyway, have a great morning. Bye.
Is Starmer fueling anti-Semitism?
I don't think he's doing anything to deal with anti-Semitism. The attempt to gaslight the British people and the Jewish community is appalling.
This has to stop. It's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 6:30. It is Bank Holiday Monday. JK at the controls with a wonderful Poppy Coburn. And despite the fact that we're talking about Starmer and we're talking about Zack Palansky, I think as it's a bank holiday, wherever you are in the UK, what are you doing? What are you heading out to do? That lady was off to do a car boot sale, if you noticed, to pay her gas bill. It's gone through the roof. What are you doing today?
I'm doing a Pilates class with my friends.
A Pilates class. You see, I tried that and my arm nearly fell off. Apparently, I've got to go and play football in the garden. Then I've got to go on a horse riding lesson, and then I've got to go and do a barbecue.
Oh, very nice.
I'll be
Watch
shattered.
out for the weather.
What? Is it going to rain then?
No, it's not going to rain, but it's going to be cloudy all day.
That was really boring. 0344 499 1000. Morning to Damon in Wigan. Good morning, Poppy, and that old assistant. I voted to leave the EU and for the Prime Minister and Labour to take us back is an ultimate betrayal against me and the people. What was the point in voting for Brexit? And Andy Burnham has done nothing for Greater Manchester. Joanna's in Salisbury. Good morning, Joanna. Hello, Jez and the radiant Poppy. Oh, here we go. Starmer went into meltdown when we voted for Brexit. He'd gone into politics for his next job and we've cut him off at the knees. Starmer wants the big job in the EU, but now we are out. He can't have it. It's the reason he's all over the EU like a rash. Pete says the dictionary definition should in future replace the word liar with the word Starmer. Reg, Gardner, is he I've no idea. Morning, Jez Pops. This is indeed a bank holiday and we are up and at it this morning. We've decided to watch you instead of listening. It's the law in our house, but we've tuned in as soon as you come on because we have this game now. How long before Jezza mentions Starmer? Congratulations, it was 6:04 this morning. But it's difficult not to, isn't it?
Well, he's still the Prime Minister, in name only, if nothing else.
He's arrived in Armenia.
It'll be nice when he's
Armenia's probably an exciting place for him. Just looking at the pictures of Armenia, I think he and Armenia will get on really well together.
I think he'll get on well with any foreign country that isn't the country that he's supposed to be leading, because at least then less people will hate him.
Yes, and if he stays here, somebody's going to say, why are you so unpopular? Why are you the worst Prime Minister since time began? And he'll say, we are working on improving the economy and increasing breakfast clubs. I'm so bored of breakfast clubs. Morning, Debs.
Morning, Jez. It's Debbie from Bedford. I don't get why Starmer's left the country. Maybe he's hiding. I get what you're saying, but I can't stand that horrible little man. Glad to see you back. I'm hoping you sent my cup in the post. I'm really looking forward to it. If you have, let me know so I can look out for it. I was really pleased when you promised me my cup. Crazy fan of your show and crazy fan of you. Love you guys. Keep the good work up.
Right, sorry, cup. What? Sorry, what cup, Christian? What are we talking about? I've known that. A cup. Oh, a cup is the first voice note. We'll send you a talk mug. We haven't got any Jeremy Carr. Why haven't we got any Jeremy Carr breakfast show cups? Have we got any budget? Can we come up with that? We've got poppy mugs. Oh, all right, you can have... Apparently there are poppy mugs. Did you know that?
Is this a Remembrance Day thing?
No, I don't know what it is. What is Poppy like the full name, or is it short for something?
No, it's this
Popelia or something.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, what would be the full name?
Popelia.
Popelia.
Popelia, that's nice. 0344 499 1000. If you're waking up on this bank holiday Monday, maybe you are already at work, like the rest of us, grafting, thinking, why do I go to work? You're waking up to the news that Starmer's disappeared off to Armenia. He wants to give the EU £1 billion so we can get back in with them, despite the fact that the country said they didn't want to. And as Poppy Coburn quite rightly says, he's more popular in Armenia, probably, than he is in the United Kingdom. What will annoy you if you're going to work today is that over 625,000 households in the last fiscal year received more money in benefits than the people who actually went to work. So in 625,000 households, you're better off not working for a living. I really worry about that as a thing. I genuinely think that message is absolutely outrageous.
It's appalling. You know what? It's something. The one thing that the Tories did fix in their time in government, obviously they let them become a crisis again, is in the early 2010s they saw the same problem, which was that welfare was paying more than work, and they go, right, what do? We need to cut back on welfare. So they did sweeping changes where they basically made it much more difficult to unemployment benefit and sit on unemployment benefit. They forced people to go to classes to get back to work, so it's less desirable to be on benefits. And then they get new prime ministers and they go, oh, well, welfare, I don't want to be mean. Oh, and it's kind of difficult, it's a bit boring. I want to go jet off around the world.
They're scared.
Yeah, exactly. And so what they've done is they've allowed it to become a problem again. And then, of course, the Labour Party, who've now made it really, really difficult to actually get anyone into work and push more people onto welfare, have made the problem 10 times worse.
Can you please, Alarm Clock Break, can you make me feel a little bit happier today? Where are you? Is the sun shining? Is your hat at a jaunty angle? What are you doing today? So far I've heard from somebody going to a car boot sale. Do you know why I'm cynical about politicians? Front page of the Times points out Britain told to pay $1 billion a year to EU after reset, but this bit. Anti-racist groups should show more support for Jews, says local MP Sarah Sackman. I'd absolutely agree with that. But you see, the thing is, Sarah Sackman, I would respectfully suggest that you should have been saying this when you were elected 2 years ago. And I wonder whether you're just saying it now, because when you went down to Golders Green after that terror attack the other day, you got heckled and told that you and your party have done absolutely nothing for dealing with the scourge that is anti-Semitism. We did the whole show on Thursday about it. I'm really, really, really strong on it. I think it's a disgrace. I think any form of racism is abhorrent, but I fail to understand how 250,000 people who were persecuted all those years ago should live in fear in my country. It makes me sick.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this stuff about the anti-racist groups, we all know the reason why. It's because it's not fashionable. You know, they don't actually think Jewish people deserve to count as a minority group. They don't see them as being part of, like, the gang that they want to look out for.
Is the hatred towards Jews that we've talked about, is it because of what Israel is and how Israel behaves, or is it deeper seated than that? Because somebody said something to me last week, I thought it was very fascinating. After what happened to the Jews and the terrible way they were persecuted and you know, what they must have gone through as a race, they sort of became insular and became successful. Is there a degree of jealousy, do you think there is?
The one thing about, look, I'm sure that war in Israel has had some effect on some people, but anti-Semitism has existed for about 2,000 years. It was not invented with the State of Israel, which is less than 100 years old, OK? And particularly anti-Semitism that comes from the left. It's a very specific strain of anti-Semitism that comes from, as you mentioned, class envy, which is that they see Jews who are a successful minority group who have integrated very well into this country and they can't stand it. And so anti-racist groups have essentially picked a side. They have picked the side with the groups of people who do not like Jewish people, who come from areas of the world where it's perfectly acceptable to say anti-Semitic things. I mean, Fayez Mughal, who's fantastic, he wrote an article about this. There is a serious problem within some communities, the Muslim community in particular in this country, with anti-Semitism, where it's unfortunately for a lot of people totally acceptable to share anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, to make threats against Jewish life, and it's just something that people go, yeah, fine, whatever. Whereas I think you and I, we can both agree that if someone says something anti-Semitic in front of us, we'd be like, what? How dare you say that? And that is something we need to talk about. That's why these anti-racist groups are silent on anti-Semitism, because they've essentially picked a side. Here's a bigger group of people, we're going to back them. Here's a tiny group of people, Jewish people in Britain, because they are a tiny minority, we're just going to throw them under the bus.
But the stories that I heard on Thursday made my blood boil. Kids not able to wear the school uniforms on the bus, people having their homes attacked.
Outside of synagogues.
And what we're in the middle of the show, weren't we? And Labour said, oh, we're going to give £25 million more to make sure security is good. And I'm thinking, well, hold on a second, that's not going to answer the problem. These two poor people last week were simply walking down the road in traditional Jewish attire. I think just the hat, what's the kippur thing on instead? Stabbed just for being Jewish in my society. That's abhorrent.
Yeah.
Well, because there's 250,000 of them. And many Jewish people tell me, we're going to leave. Did you hear what Rob Rinder, the TV broadcaster, said at the weekend? He was just walking through London. He's a friend of mine. Somebody just came up and made a vile racist slur at him and walked on.
Yeah.
It's just like, where did we get to?
Yeah.
Where did we get to? Lovely thoughts on that. Go
It's
on.
been boiling over for years. This is not
Do you
new.
despair, or is it just me? Do you despair?
Well, to be honest with you, if I were the Jewish community, I would be despairing, because I think this is a really serious problem. Yeah, and it is not going to get any better anytime soon. You can have all the armed police in the world, but if you've got people roving through the streets of Britain that want to kill you, they will find their chance. And that is something that we all need to take very, very seriously.
0344 499 1000. God, she's turned into a stalker. Debbie, again, what?
Morning, Jez. That's what I meant. Mug. The talk mug. Yes, please. Love the talk mug. If you can't remember me, I'm the one that's had the back injuries through work and totally screwed now with my spinal stimulator stuck in my back.
Do you remember, Debbie? Can we organise a mug? Stop laughing at me. But you should see them. Honestly, they've dropped me right in here. 0344. And stop messaging me about West Ham. Let's just lay it out there. West Ham will now be relegated. I've stopped believing. Well played, Spurs. I've said it. It kills me. Morning, Poppy and Jezza. This is interesting. I'm still in Thailand, says Gary, so not getting all the news. But have I heard correctly somewhere that Mrs. Starling has moved out of number 10?
Oh, yes. I have heard news about this. Apparently she absolutely hates it. She can't stand it. Yeah.
Sorry, can we rewind? Because I wouldn't want to get into trouble. Mrs. Starling, it would be Mrs. Starmer, has allegedly moved out of number 10 because she what?
Hates it. I'm not sure Keir Starmer...
Sorry, hates
she doesn't hate Keir Starmer.
Hates it. What is it?
As far as I can tell, but she hates politics.
Oh,
she hates him as Prime Minister.
Oh. Well, join the club, love. There's many of us and we're not married to him.
And yeah, apparently she is begging him to give it up. She's just really fed up of, like, just the media cycles, everything. She can't stand it.
What, and she didn't realise that was going to be the case when he waltzed in? I've noticed with Mrs. Starmer, and I could be massively wrong here, that he sort of drags her out every now and then, but actually they don't seem to be. I mean, he said the other day, didn't he, my Vic's really important to me and my two fantastic children. I wonder how his fantastic children feel. Listen, they're young, that's it. But her, yes, she's moved out. Do you don't think there's anything more to that, do you?
Well, I can possibly comment on Keir Starmer's.
But you've got that journalistic view, you've got that look on your face, which is telling me that there could be more to this story.
All I'll say about Keir Starmer is apparently he was the inspiration for a character in Love Actually, played by Hugh Grant. So back in his younger years, he was supposed to be a bit of a heartthrob. That's all I can say.
Sorry, now I haven't had breakfast and I've got sick in my mouth. He was a heartthrob.
Apparently, yes, seriously. When in his younger years, when he was Director of Public Prosecutions, he was apparently the inspiration for the human rights.
Hugh Grant is quite cool, and Hugh Grant did that dance, didn't he? Do you remember that dance? Look at that. That didn't work on camera, did it? Starmer dancing?
Seriously.
What has this got to do with Mrs. Starmer?
All I'm saying is he used to be, back in the day, used to be considered an attractive man. I'm not sure that that's the case now, but I couldn't comment.
You want to... God, this is brilliant. This is like quizzing a journalist. But how long have they been married for, Poppy Coburn?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. I didn't know.
And she doesn't like... So she's moved out with the children or just on her own?
I actually...
Is he a single parent?
I don't think the children have ever lived in number 10.
Kathy Newman, have you seen her new show on Sky? She asked our Prime Minister, who's in Armenia, by the way, he's not here because he prefers it, that he asked about his Vic, is his wife, who's moved out, allegedly, out of Downing Street, not because of anything other than apparently she doesn't like politics 2.5 years into agreeing for her to be Prime Minister. Anyway, morning, Kathy.
I always listen to Vic, and I think she was the one in the first place that basically said, why on earth would you want to go into politics? But she is an absolute...
And your answer to that question now?
She is an absolute rock, and I confide in her all of the time, and hers is the best advice, and I'm just thankful that I've got her every day.
And at the moment she's advising you to keep going.
She is, yes, and we talk everything through, and it's fantastic. We've got also two fantastic kids, a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old. I can't tell you how much joy and happiness they bring. They are my pride and joy every single day.
Sorry, I don't want to be like a dog with a bone because you've got that look on your face, and I used to do this for a living. So Mrs. Starmer is allegedly not at number 10 anymore. Yeah. I mean, he's gone to Armenia. I hope the kids aren't home alone.
He's on holiday. Sorry, on a work trip.
He's on a work trip. She doesn't like politics.
Yes. Yeah, there have been reports that have been briefed to the newspapers for ages saying that she cannot stand frontline politics. She doesn't like the scrutiny that the family are under.
Yes.
I think you're probably quite freaked out by what happened to his house as well.
Wasn't that court case on last week?
Yes, still inconclusive.
That's an ongoing court case, so we've sort of left that.
We can't discuss it, but yeah, I think quite rattled by whatever
you would be if you're back. Sorry, the door they were set fire and stuff, and then the car and stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
But she's moved. So are they separated in terms of their living ability then?
I don't know, because there's no suggestion.
Why do I
that
not
he's
trust my co-host? All of a sudden, she's raising her left eye like that, right above. Honestly, she does that thing with her eye.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Interesting. Let me know if you know anything. Oh, Bill, if Mrs. Starmer hates politics, she ought to give back her clothes to Lord Ali. I mean, that's a true point, isn't it? Good. Joanna's back. Last week, Starmer was saying his wife totally supported him. Yet another lie. Oh, Jez and Poppy, read the Green Party leader. Perhaps a better name after he raved around on the stage in Trafalgar Square should be Zack Pole Dancer.
Oh, God, that's a horrible image.
You've just admitted on this show that at some point you believe that Keir Starmer was seen as a heartthrob.
Oh, no, don't
you know this marry or kiss, right? We're going to do this now. We're going to do this live, right? This is brilliant. This is absolutely... Well, I'm going to keep out the rude bits. Oh, no, actually, let's do it. Marry, sleep with or kiss, OK? Keir Starmer.
You're killing me.
Zack Palansky. Somebody give me another name for Poppy Coburn. What am I? I'm just trying to think.
I'm not giving you any idea.
Nigel Farage. Right, absolutely nailed on for Poppy of a bank holiday morning.
Absolutely.
Who are you marrying, Farage, Starmer or Palansky?
God.
This is brilliant radio. Who are you marrying? You can do it to me before 7.
OK. Well, I mean, I'm going to have to go with Farage. I probably agree with him most politically.
Okay.
So if we're going to be married, at least the arguments...
OK, Poppy Farage. OK.
I'm definitely not doing sleep with. I'll do a reluctant kiss.
A reluctant kiss.
A reluctant kiss. Oh, God. You can't, I know this is going to come back to haunt me as well. This is going to come back to haunt me one day.
Starmer might be grateful because his wife's allegedly left number 10. Would you kiss Starmer or Palansky? It's going to be Starmer.
Armenian beach, a romantic Armenian beach walk.
It's going to be Starmer.
Well, look, I can't kiss that Palansky.
Why not?
But
I think he hypnotised his dentist, but I've got
I was going to say, I mean, if he so wanted, he could hypnotise me into doing anything he wants, couldn't he? And maybe I'd get a free enhancement in the process.
I don't know what to say. Christian's loving this.
I'm gonna have to pick Starmer, because I just can't stand the idea of any being here.
So if you're waking up this morning at 7:15 on a bank holiday Monday, Poppy Coburn, Deputy Content Editor of The Telegraph, would kiss Keir Starmer and marry Nigel Farage.
I can't
That's how much she doesn't like Palansky.
You're a very mean man. OK, now I'm going to turn it around.
Well, I'm going to go
now it's your turn.
You can think about it during the break and I will play this game. It's not a problem. 0344 499 1000. Morning, Cindy.
Hi, this is Cindy in Michigan, United States. So I feel sorry for Armenia, if that's where Starmer is, Starmer the Harmer, and $1 billion for the EU. You don't have $1 billion. Why not put that towards the people who need it?
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 12 minutes to 7. We're live across the UK. It is Bank Holiday Monday. And, of course, you're waking up to news every single day. You wake up to news. And Talk is the home of common sense and your chance to give us your views on that news. Starmer's landed in Armenia. He's keen to get closer ties to Europe and give them £1 billion, despite the fact that people voted not to do that. He seems to spend more time abroad. There are rumours this morning that Mrs Starmer, we were just talking about this, has apparently decided she doesn't like living in 10 Downing Street because of the scrutiny that comes with being the Prime Minister's wife. Zack, Palansky, this argument won't go away. The Golders Green terror attacks last week, an appalling example of anti-Semitism, and he was quite rightly criticised over the weekend for saying, and I quote, "I think those police officers used disproportionate sort of power, really." That suspect had just stabbed 2 people simply for being Jewish and might have had a bomb in his backpack. He's a madman. We also talked about how 625,000 households in this country in the last 12 months received more in benefits than the average wage of £32,327. We'll talk royals, but we are... I'm trying desperately to get away...
Important journalism now.
Right, OK, important. This is because I said to Bobby Coburn, legendary broadcaster, we had to do... was it marry, kiss or sleep with? We had...
No.
She'd marry Nigel Farage, kiss Keir Starmer, but refused to answer anything to do with Palansky. I feel I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Tony says, "You're so mean, leave our Poppy alone," says Tony.
Well, don't worry, I'm about to get my revenge, because we're going to do the Ladies of Labour edition. The lovely Ladies of Labour. So, right, first off, I'll start you with one that's relatively easy. It's our beloved Rachel Thieves. Rachel Thieves, the Chancellor.
Oh, God.
Then, a woman that you know has balls. She can stand up for herself. She's been very big this week. Emily Thornberry.
Oh,
Emily
God.
Thornberry. And then I'm going to throw you a bone, OK? Our favourite could be the next leader of the country, so keep that in mind when you answer this decision. Angela Rayner of Ginger fame. Take your time. Take your time. Because I know it's difficult to choose. You can't choose them all.
I'll think about it. I've got something to play you, which is brilliant. There's an I will give you an answer.
I'm not letting you get away with
it. The
Crewker
and Gazette do these amazing carry-offs about politicians, and they've done something about Emily Thornberry as Hyacinth Bouquet. Do you remember Keeping Up Appearances?
Yes.
Lady of the House. Hi. This is brilliant. I'll work it out. This is Emily Thornberry in the Crewker Gazette. Have a watch.
Residence. No, it's Thornbert, not Thornberry. Yes, that's quite true. And no, we are not interested. Good day. Kia! Kia! Where are you? Kia, answer me, Kia! If you don't answer me now, then you'll not have any dinner tonight.
Emily, for the love of God, I'm just sat in the car.
Why are you sat in the car on your own?
Just to get a moment's peace from your constant nagging.
Oh, Onslow, look at the state of you. Why are you throwing away your life like this?
It's because I want to be leader of the party, Emily.
But that won't happen while you're not paying your tax and drinking all of the time. Now, will it, Onslow? And you really need to stop going to the Commons bar and banging into doors. Oh, that poor door, it did not deserve that.
But it was a racist far-right door. It deserved everything it got.
It was just a door, Answell. It didn't do anything wrong.
OK, brilliant. I love the Crewker Gazette. Go online and find it. It's brilliant. 0344 499 1000.
Come on.
I genuinely don't know what to say.
I gave you at least 2 answers, so you've got to give me at least 2 answers.
So I've got to marry, kiss and sleep with someone. Yeah. I don't know what to say. I'd spend the night with Angela Rayner. That's all I can say, honestly. Just to get...
A night out with Ange.
A night with Ange, I think, would be great. But I couldn't marry Rachel Reeves or Eleanor Thornberry. Not in a million years.
Go on. OK, which one do you think would give you a happier life? Rachel
Thornberry,
Reeves?
No. Reeves, no.
I feel like Emily
Can you imagine Rachel Reeves going, this is going to sound really old-fashioned, so forgive me. Can you imagine if you had a joint bank account and you'd have absolutely no trust that you wouldn't be absolutely skint or overdrawn, that she'd have taken out 14 credit cards and had Botox or something? I don't know. Maybe I'm missing the point.
She'd get her hair done.
Thornbury would just chew your head off every day, wouldn't she?
She would definitely, but she'd hold you to account. You know, unlike Rachel Reeves, I don't think she'd be going off.
I think I'd marry Emily Thornbury, give Rachel Reeves a peck on the cheek, and I'd go out for a good night with our Amish. Is that right?
Very good.
That's the only thing about it. 0344. Oh, hello, Peter. Mrs. Starmer probably doesn't like living in Downing Street because of him. I mean, I think, is this a true story? So she's moved out. Can we try and find out more about this? This is fascinating.
Get her on the show.
Yeah, that'll work. He's in Armenia. Let's try a pincer movement. Can I just talk about one other thing before we disappear? Labour's new war on motorists. I mean, I hate to be boring. I mean, motorists have been screwed for as long as you can possibly remember. Absolutely. Now, cash-strapped councils could be allowed to double parking ticket charges to 160 quid, fleecing a bunch of people that already seem to pay loads and loads of money.
Well, this is exactly what we mean by rip-off Britain. You know, the real difference in this country is between people who work actual jobs, like real jobs, not just sending emails on their phone all the time, and people who work maybe fake jobs.
Send an email to
I was going to say, that's my job. I've got a fake job.
Ange, do you fancy going out tomorrow? No, I'm joking. Sorry.
Call her up afterwards. But, yeah, the point...
Jez, just imagine Angela Kyle. No, I said a night, not a life. You've done me now, haven't you? Angela Kyle.
That's really an image that everyone's going to be left with. You and Angela out on the town. I like it. And the big night out in Manchester.
Would we have a four-ball? Who were you going out for the night with? Who was it again? Zack Palansky? No, you'd be Nigel Farage. You'd be in tweed walking on the... We're having dinner, Ange, with the Farages.
No, you'd be drinking cans of beer. You'd be having a great time.
I'd be burping, having roll-ups. You'd be eating pheasants and talking all sorts of things. Right, how do we get from that to motorists and back?
Yeah, sorry. Let's get it back down to serious things.
Yeah, serious things.
But it is serious. I mean, it is seriously messed up what the government is currently doing to motorists. They know it's another group of people that they can squeeze. Because people can't stop driving their car. It's the same with ULEZ charges in London. People who need to be able to drive a car are completely screwed when the government does stuff like this because they have no options. It's very expensive to buy a new car that complies with whatever regulations they want. And because it's the government, like they did with diesel cars, you never know if they're going to reverse it 10 years
We
later.
haven't got long, but it strikes me that it's another easy tax that screws the everyday person.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, Starmer's in Armenia. Mrs. Starmer's not in Downing Street. Zack Palansky doesn't like anybody, specifically the Metropolitan Police. Labour hate you if you drive a car, and if you do go to work, people on benefits are better off. That sums up the first hour, and she's going to marry Farage, and I'm going out in the town with Angela Rayner. Pops, brilliant. What are you doing today?
I'm doing Pilates class. And not
with
much.
Nigel Farage?
No, absolutely. It's not really his style, is it?
I've no idea. Thank you so much. You are legendary. The wonderful Poppy Coburn. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. It's Bank Holiday Monday, the 4th of May, and you're waking up to the home of common sense. This is Talk. Brendan O'Neill on the way after the news at 7, which is next.
crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in Crisis. Subscribe to The Royal Tea from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With permission, I'd like to provide the House with information that I now have about the appointment of Peter Mandelson as our ambassador to the United States. But, Mr. Speaker, before I go into the details, I want to be very clear with this House that while this statement will focus on the process surrounding Peter Mandelson's vetting and appointment, at the heart of this, there is also a judgment I made that was wrong.
The name had been submitted to the King as Minister's recommendation. The Prime Minister had made an announcement that Mandelson was his nominee without caveats. The British government had sought agrément, the formal diplomatic process for a host government accepting a nominee from the US government, and that had been obtained before I arrived in post. The position taken from the Cabinet Office was that there was no need to vet Mandelson.
Mr. Speaker, I know many members across the House will find these facts to be incredible. To that, I can only say they are right. It beggars belief that throughout the whole timeline of events, officials in the Foreign Office saw fit to withhold this information from the most senior ministers in our system in government.
This was not due process. Everyone knows the price of misleading the House. Will the Prime Minister finally take responsibility and go?
Mr. Speaker, let's be absolutely clear. Before Mandelson took up his post, UKSV recommended with red flags that clearance should be denied, and there was high concern that was not brought to my attention or the attention of the Foreign Secretary at the time or subsequently is a very serious error of judgment. She rushed to judgment as she always did, just like the Iran war. Mr. Speaker, I was elected by the British people because they let the country down for 14 long years. Whatever she says, whatever noise they make, nothing is going to distract me from delivering for our country.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. Welcome back or welcome along. It is Bank Holiday Monday. You would talk, of course, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock. Brett, are you working today? Are you you're grafting? Are you just come back from a night shift? Many people obviously having a fantastic bank holiday. I sort of said to people at the beginning of the show at 6 o'clock, where are you? What are you doing? Tell us about your bank holiday. The most inspiring so far is a woman who's got up and is so skint and can't afford to pay her energy bill. She's off to do a car boot. Where are you in the United Kingdom? 0344 499 1000. That's the telephone number. You can text this show on 87222. And, of course, Christian is in because he's always here. He'll take your voice notes. You're waking up to several stories, my friends. Our Prime Minister, Mr Starmer, Sir Keir, he's disappeared. He's gone to Armenia. Apparently, irrespective of the fact that there are local elections and his party officials are circling to try and get rid of him and all of his cabinet are up in arms, he's gone to Armenia because he thinks it'd be a good idea if we got closer to the EU and gave him £1 billion, despite the fact we're skint. But there you go. Zack Palansky, this argument will not go on. His response after police officers responded to a knife attack last week on 2 Jewish men has caused outrage. He questioned whether the officers had used proportionate force to arrest the suspect who's now been charged. So the interesting thing here is he says not that somebody had done what they'd done and that it's questioned the police. Cue outrage from all political parties. He did the media rounds yesterday. He was forced to apologise, but he won't backtrack. And we know why that is, because he, and I said at the beginning of 6 o'clock, people will have their politics, that's fine. We live in a world where free speech and all that is fine. Zack Palansky has managed to hoover up all those Marxist, communist, I think unbelievably strange people that voted for Corbyn. And you look at him and you wonder, actually, what does he believe in? Love your thoughts on Starmer. Love your thoughts on Palansky. I'd love your thoughts on the fact, if you are working on a bank holiday Monday, how over 600,000 households last year with benefits claimants earned more and had a better lifestyle than 625,000 households of people who went to work. Because we're now in a country where it can, for some, he says, picking his words carefully, be easier to sit on benefits. And before you jump up and down, no, absolutely not the people who genuinely deserve it. And those people should, of course, be supported, but they're missing out because the system is being played. So much in the news. We talk Starmer and we talk about, who's going to try and make it. And I have to admit to you, as I did an hour ago, I had this epiphany. Is that the right word this weekend? I am not Starmer's greatest fan in any way, which if you listen to this, you'll know. But is he better than the alternative? I mean, what the alternative? Angela Rayner, Ed Miliband, David Lammy. It's so bad on the Labour front bench that people are genuinely saying this man's the worst Prime Minister since records began, and yet he's probably better than what might come, which is frightening. 0344 499 1000, and some news that was just sort of sent to us. We don't know if it's true. Mrs Starmer apparently has left Downing Street. Apparently she doesn't like what comes with being the Prime Minister's wife, the focus on the kids and everything, which you'd understand. On the text 87222, Mick, will Starmer be dancing around the Maypole today with his wife and kids? Probably not. He's in Armenia. Andy's in Sheffield. Morning, Jez. Hopefully when Starmer gets back, he's chased out by Rayner. What a horrible thought. Great show. Dan Bourne in Suffolk. Morning, Dan. Brave of Starmer to go on holiday. Sorry, work trip. The vultures are circling and he isn't there to bore them into submission. Brilliant. Graham Pack, for Jezza, the choices are Rachel Reeves, Kemi Badenoch or Hannah Spencer. Oh, this is the game I just played with Poppy. We didn't know. I'm not getting involved. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. We're delighted to say... And by the way, come on, you lot, where are you and what are you doing? You must be doing something different from a car boot sale. We're very happy on a Bank Holiday Monday to say a very good morning to the chief political writer at Spiked, Brendan O'Neill, my old mate. How are you, son?
I'm good, Jeremy. Thank you.
Bank Holiday Monday. Where would you like to start, Brendan? In front of your bookshelf, Keir Starmer or Zack Palansky? What would you? It's like a pick. It's like a game show.
God, who's worse? I mean, Zack Palansky. Unbelievably, as you were just saying there's no one good enough on the front bench who would be any better than Starmer. But I'll tell you who would be far, far worse than Starmer, Palansky. I mean, I feel like counting my blessings that we don't have a Green government, which is something in this day and age.
So this all kicked off after the terror attack in Golders Green last week, after police officers responded to a knife attack on those 2 Jewish men. He's now been charged. We have to be very careful because it's an ongoing case. But the truth of the matter is... to concentrate on that response in that moment, and let's just lay out the facts. A man ran amok, stabbed 2 Jewish people, Jewish men, was brought down by 2 police officers, I think with a taser, and then they kicked him. We've seen the footage. These are facts that I'm speaking. He had a backpack. And even Sir Mark Rowley, who I'm not a massive fan of, said, you know, listen, Palansky, they don't know what was in that rucksack. It could have been a device that could have detonated. It could have caused untold harm. And in that moment, and I've been super critical of the police, quite rightly, in several instances. I thought they were incredibly brave. I thought that was massively important. And what gets forgotten when Palansky plays, in my mind, politics with a really sad situation is, we're forgetting anti-Semitism. We're forgetting that 2 men, simply for being Jewish, were stabbed. We're forgetting the bravery of those police officers who could have been stabbed or blown to pieces.
You know, people are laughing at this, or they're quite shocked by what Palansky has said. But to me, this is incredibly serious. The fact that there is a leader of a mainstream party, a party that loads of middle-class idiots in kafirs are planning to vote for this week, the fact that there's a party led by a man who seemed to have more sympathy for the man who had just allegedly carried out this act rather than for the people he attacked, that is genuinely disturbing, really profoundly disturbing. And it just goes to show how completely out of touch the Green Party is with ordinary Brits, because most Brits will have actually been cheering those cops on.
And to be fair, across the political divide, and I want to make this point, because when we're near any election, it's really important that we put all sides to every story. The Labour Party have come out and said it's disgusting. The Tory Party, the same. Reform, the same. Even the Liberal Democrats. This is, to me, and I could be missing the point, you know more, this needs bringing up for one reason and one reason only. And I thought Poppy Coburn's description of Palansky as a chameleon is a really, really salient way to do it. Because this man is trying to hoover up votes or support by saying anything, jumping on the back, if you like, of stuff that happens. And that is no way. That's dangerous in my mind. That's my opinion.
It's absolutely nuts. You know, these are the kind of people who've spent the past 10 years saying, you know, punch a Nazi, the only good fascist is a dead fascist. All these slogans they come out with. Now they're crying into their almond milk lattes because, you know, some bloke with a knife got kicked in the head. It's absolutely pathetic. The thing is that the cops there behaved in an incredibly inspiring way, because they didn't know what this man had on him. They didn't know maybe there was a bomb. He still had his knife. They didn't know what was going to come next. I was really pleased to see that there are still young coppers who are willing to take risks to keep the public safe. That to me was quite inspiring.
So what are you supposed to do in that instance? I mean, they responded to a knife attack on 2 Jewish men. You're not going to stand there in the high street. Let's have this argument, right, this discussion, and try and reason with this man. He's just stabbed 2 people, right? So I think across, you know, and I've been very vocal about my criticism of the police, Brendan, in instances. You have as well. But in this instance, in that split second, I would have thought that their response was proportionate. But the reason I want to talk about Palansky is that I said it earlier, I think that all those left-wing socialist, Marxist, communist weirdos, because I haven't heard anything about hugging a tree. I haven't heard anything about anything environmental at all. All I hear about is this particular group jumping on the back of whatever is the latest political fad to try and get traction. And why that needs to be brought to home is it, and fair play to the Mail and fair play to Trevor Phillips yesterday. He dissected Palansky yesterday. Palansky was squirming like a worm on a hook. That's what needs to happen. That's not me being... Listen, there are many things of the old Green Party that even me thought, yeah, they're probably right. But this is not a Green Party. This is a bunch of misfits who have decided that and it sums up where we're at, I have to say, you'll hear him talk about the far right are divisive. I think to say the police were disproportionate is also divisive, absolutely, and meant to be so.
You know, Palansky and the rest of them keep going on about how parties like Reform are far right and they're spreading hatred. If you want to see hatred, look into the Green Party. One of their local candidates was found to have described Jews as cockroaches. Another one was spreading conspiracy theories about 7th of October. Another said that the Jews have killed millions of Christians. We know that they've got candidates and officials who celebrated 7th of October, which was the worst mass slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust. You know, if anyone in the Conservative Party had referred to black people as monkeys, or if anyone in Reform had referred to Muslims as cockroaches, the left would be all over it. They would be saying these parties are
It would be fair, and you know me, I try and do it in the right way. I'm not defending anybody, but there have been many examples, actually, of local councillors and MPs who have said some pretty appalling things. I read something about a Reform candidate this morning in Wales. I read some last week about a Tory candidate. But you're right, there's a bigger picture here, and the bigger picture is, and this is me being honest, a fifth of this country in the latest national opinion poll, who presumably want wealth taxes and hate anybody who's successful, are going towards a party that talks about legalising heroin, that has that view of the Jewish community. It's just frightening. Let's do this because we should. This was him. This was Zack Palansky with Trevor Phillips. Have a listen.
Well, the first thing I did was recognise that this was a horrific crime, and I showed solidarity to the victims and their families. I then thanked the emergency responders for the brave work they did. I found it all very traumatic, especially as a Jewish person, and I also found the video that was circulating online traumatic too. I accept, though, that conversation about that video needs to be had with the Commissioner rather than on X.
How do you respond to what Zack Palansky said, Brendan?
I mean, if you found that video horrifying, there's something wrong with you. Because all I saw in that clip, and we all know the clip he's referring to, I saw someone with a knife who had allegedly just carried out a horrific act being forcefully subdued by the police, which is what the police are supposed to do. They are supposed to protect the public, and sometimes that will involve using extreme force against someone who poses a real threat. So if you saw that video and you were reaching for the smelling salts and fainting and saying, oh my God, the cops are so evil, there's something wrong with you.
This reminds me of the Manchester airport drama. Do you remember where it was very interesting because immediately there was footage of a gentleman, he and his brother, being kicked, alleged, in the head, and then other stuff came out and other videos, and it had been played out. Listen, the fact of the matter is, in any civilised society, there are people who do bad things, and you're supposed to have authorities like the police to do something about it. We've become, and I say it every day, so apologetic and so, you know, we can't say this and we can't do that. I always want to say to people like that, what would you have done if somebody, one of your loved ones, had just been stabbed? You'd be thinking completely different. And I think on a human level, let's talk about Starmer, mate. Oh, my God. The local elections are days away. The vultures are circling in his party, and he's decided to sod off to Armenia this morning in the hope that he will get closer to the EU. And the Brussels have responded to saying, well, if you want to get closer to us, you want £1 billion, and he hasn't ruled it out, Brendan.
This is just, I mean, on one level, it's not surprising at all because we always know that he wants to drag us back into the EU, but it's still shocking. It's absolutely shocking that Starmer would be so arrogant and so cavalier towards the largest democratic vote in the history of this country, the vote for Brexit. And you know what he's saying, he's actually behaving quite tyrannically, because what he's saying is that the vote for Brexit damaged our economy, and therefore I am going to unilaterally bring us back closer towards the single market. So he's basically saying, you oiks, you stupid gammon, you dumb voters ruined the economy with your vote for Brexit, so I'm going to fix it by bringing us back into the EU. That's a tyrannical approach. That is anti-democratic. He is, I would say, he's a traitor to the people's vote, because he is seemingly wanting to override it and paying for the privilege to do so by forking out perhaps £1 billion a year to the EU in order that we can get back into the single market that we voted to leave.
Do you think people will... Do you think genuinely... I know there's a big debate, always there's a big debate about the EU and whether, you know, actually the vote will be the same, blah, blah, blah. Do you think that the people will swallow this, or do you think they will be incredibly agitated about this whole EU debate? Or do you think there are more people in this country now going, yeah, he's right? Because, I don't know. I mean, I'm very strong on the fact that I think it's totally wrong, but there you go.
I just think most normal... I mean, there's a poll recently showing that most Labour Party members want to go back into the EU, which really tells you what the Labour Party's like these days. I have no connection whatsoever with ordinary working-class Brits who, you know, the kind of backbone of the vote for Brexit. But I think most normal people in this country are probably tired of Brexit, which doesn't mean they want to overturn it. Doesn't mean they want to go back to the EU, but they quite reasonably thought to themselves that they've made this decision. They voted for it in a democratic referendum 10 years ago, and they thought it would be done. I think they're probably quietly shocked that there are still politicians trying to overthrow this thing they vote for, and that might turn into anger at some point.
I had a terrible, terrible moment over the weekend where I actually found myself listening to the argument that says this is the most unpopular Prime Minister since records began. There is nothing that I see or believe. I don't think there's DNA, I don't think there's political nous. I don't like him. I don't think he's up to the job. But am I going mad to say to myself that however bad that is, the alternative is probably 25 times more frightening, Angela Rayner or Ed Miliband? That's what's worrying about where we're at, isn't it?
Oh, my God, I completely agree. Can you imagine Prime Minister Angela Rayner? I mean, it just boggles the mind at how awful that would be. Or Miliband, you know, the kind of the greenest politician.
Turned down by the British people in 2015, totally, by the way, totally.
Exactly. The idea of him coming back. There's no one there with any real talent or vision. And then they say, what about Wes Streeting? He's basically a Starmer cutout.
I think he cooked his goose with a few weeks ago. I genuinely do.
And then you've got Burnham, and, you know, Burnham's obviously got the magic touch up in Manchester, but can he lead the country?
Has he got the magic? I'd love to, by the way, can I throw this out here this morning? I'd love to hear from the people of Manchester. I spent 15 years filming in Manchester. Andy Burnham is perceived by many, certainly in the little bubble that is Westminster, as being this hero. I can change everything. If you're in Manchester, you're a Burnham supporter. Tell me what he's done in Manchester that he could replicate across the world. I'd love to hear from you. Likewise, if you live in Manchester and you think Burnham's been no good and would be a disaster, let us know. 0344 499 1000. The vultures are circling. Do you think he's safe? Because we've had this debate for weeks and weeks. Is he going? Is he staying? What do you reckon?
It's hard to tell, isn't it? It will depend on what happens this week in the local elections and the Welsh and Scottish elections. I think the only thing he's got going for him is that the factions that oppose him in the party are so weak and so visionless and so useless that they can't really push the knife in too hard. But the thing is, a lot of people are mistaking this for a personnel crisis, just thinking, well, if we had a new leader, Labour would be fine.
Good point.
Actually, we're facing something far more serious, which is the death of the Labour Party itself. It has completely lost touch with working class voters and with all the areas that it used to be powerful in. It has no connection whatsoever with ordinary Brits. This is a party on its way out, in its death throes. And it's quite fitting that one of the leaders in that period would be someone as dull as Keir Starmer.
And then just the news that we're not sure if it's right or not. We'd love your responses, a bit light-hearted, but apparently Mrs Starmer has decided she doesn't want to live in 10 Downing Street. Apparently, it's about the in terms of the exposure and the press and everything. This is interesting. From Peter said, did Mrs Starmer say to Starmer, "If you go to Armenia, I won't be here when you get back"?
Well, I mean, more information, I presume, will come out about this. It will be interesting to see what the truth of it is. If it is a case that she doesn't like all the attention, you can kind of understand that. You know, she does strike me as quite a private person. She does events when she needs to with the Prime Minister, her husband. But she's not a Cherie Blair, is she? She's always kind of stayed out of the headlights.
Is it only me who remembers Cherie Blair about 3 weeks in to be the Prime Minister's wife opening number 10 Downing Street to get the morning milk? Do you remember that?
I remember that. It looked like she'd been dragged through a hedge backwards. Yeah.
Brendan, bless you. What are you doing on Bank Holiday Monday then? Have you got anything special lined up, mate?
I've got some work to do. I've got writing to do. And then in the afternoon, I'm going to go to the pub and relax.
Good man. We love having you on. Thank you, my friend. Listen, you lot, go and check out Spiked. It's brilliant. Chief Political Writer Brendan O'Neill, 7:21, Bank Holiday Monday morning. What are you up to? Where are you in the United Kingdom? It's a dull and misty day this morning. I fell asleep in the sun yesterday. You get drenched today. It's horrible. This is I don't know about the weather. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Let's go to Wales very quickly. Anne, you're on Talk Breakfast. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh.
I've been listening over the months about Starmer, who's, in my opinion, an idiot. Does he honestly believe, being a liar, a cheat, useless at his job, that the European people will want him in any shape or form?
Well, you know what, Anne? Yes, because it wouldn't matter to the Europeans who's in charge. They'd see that as them reasserting their authority and their control, and Britain dropping to its knees and saying, of course, we'll do whatever. That's the reality of the whole situation. Do you think he'll last? Do you think he'll be thrown out? What do you think's going to happen?
Oh, I hope he will.
Yeah, but what about the alternative? I want to have this debate this morning. What is the alternative? The alternative is frightening, Anne.
I agree. There's nobody. And I'm embarrassed to see the state of the cabinet, because I always thought somebody wanted to be in the government for the good of the country, and they're not. I
don't think there are I think it's a really good point. I don't think there are conviction politicians anymore. They might tell you they're conviction politicians, but I don't think they are. I think they're in it for their own ends, and I think he's probably eyeing up a job in the future with the EU. And how are you spending your bank holiday, my darling? What are you doing?
I'm dog sitting.
Dog sitting?
Yes, I've done my baking, I've done my housework, and I'm going dog sitting for
You've done your baking and your housework by 7:23. You sound like me. What did you bake this morning?
Quiches.
Quiches. Now, do you make your own pastry?
Yes.
My mother, dead, my mother told me that to make good pastry, you have to have cold hands. Is that right?
Yes.
See? I know these things. Have a lovely day dog sitting. This is Talk Breakfast. Good morning.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCown.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Suits, that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beard, and I feel
raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to 7:27. It is Bank Holiday Monday, like you give a damn about the time. This is Jeremy Kyle and Talk, the home of common sense, of course, and the home of the alarm clock Brit. We're all up, we're all at it, except for some people who aren't. Morning, Jez. Starmer's been out of the country an eighth of his time in power. When you add up the holidays, when Parliament is closed, you might as well be on benefits the amount of time he actually works. Charlie and Blythe in Northumberland, God's country. I'm coming north on Thursday. Don's in Glasgow. Morning, Don. Jez, with respect, if you or anyone else was in front of me wielding a knife, I'd frankly do anything with my fist or my feet to disable you. Are they really saying that they just stand there and let him carry on? I know, madness. Zoe in Lancashire. Good morning, Zoe. She says the only reason Starmer wants to crawl back to the EU is so that when he's cocking things up here is up, he can then... What? Starmer can keep blaming the EU. Another excuse for a gaslighting government to use. Disgusting. I'd go further, though. I think he's actually trying to get himself a job with the EU. One of those sort of high-profile, you know, human rights lawyers set in Brussels on millions a year. Oh, no, they don't want to earn a lot. Oh, but you've got a knighthood, but you don't believe... Oh, don't get me started. John from Angus. Hey, why did I do that? Morning, Jez. You want to know what people are doing today? I'm off to the Warwickshire to have fun and support countryside sports, which this government wants to devastate. Oh, that'll be a bone of contention. Good for you. Phil in Cheshire. I'm cutting greens on the golf course. Nobody told the grass it's a bank holiday. Very good. Greenkeepers, what a job that is. I'd like to say thank you on behalf of my son. What golf club then, Phil? In Cheshire? Probably played it. Sharon Miller, good morning, Jez. Why has that pathetic Starmer gone to Armenia, dishing out British taxpayers to Ukrainians yet again? Is this man crazy? No wonder Zelensky is happy. He's rubbing his hands all the way to the bank, laughing at us. Hi, Jez. I'm in Derbyshire. Ruth, maybe she left number 10, Mrs Starmer, because she doesn't like the way her husband treats Jews. Whoops. Joanna from Salisbury. Hi, Jez. Is Victoria moving out of number 10 in advance of him resigning after the local elections, or is Victoria sick of listening to him practising his speeches? God. This is a story that seems to be gaining a little bit of traction, that allegedly Mrs Starmer no longer lives in number 10. I'll make of that what you want. 0344 499 1000. Morning, Sean.
Morning, Jez. Sean of Cheshire. Happy Bank Holiday Monday. Happy May Day Monday. Up early, as usual, listening to your show. Yeah, just listen to you there. Burnham, the magic touch. Nah. I'm from Stockport, and I've never met anybody ever. When I go back, my family still live there, and I've still got friends, and when I speak to them, never in my life have I heard anybody say, the magic bullet is anti-Burnham. No, I've never heard that one. Anyway, you have a great Monday. I'm going to have a great Monday. I'm going to take my dogs out for a walk later on. I'm going to swim in the river. Cheers, buddy.
Swim in the river? Wow. 03, all right, swampy. 0344 499 1000. That was because I said, you know, the vultures are circling in the Labour Party, and I was at a point this weekend where I thought, what is the alternative? Am I getting mad to the point where I think Starmer should stay? Of course, Andy Burnham somehow has this persona. If you live in Manchester and you support Andy Burnham and he's changed it for good, let me know. I want to hear why. How? Why would he be such a good Prime Minister? I've only had one call on it, and that's from that bloke who said absolutely not. Apart from hiding from the British electorate, what is Starmer doing in Armenia, says Mike Williams in Pusey. Oh, lovely. I don't know why I've done that, because it's in Wiltshire. They are not EU members and are politically aligned with Russia and Belarus. Maybe he's thinking about leaving the ACA. I'm joking. Let's go. I'm so delighted to have my next guest. I think if you listen to this show regularly, you'll know how I rage against anti-Semitism, and I rage against how my Jewish friends are treated. We say a very good morning to Jake Wallace-Sowens, author of Never Again, How the West Betrayed Jews and Itself. Jake, good morning.
Good morning.
We've been talking about Zack Palansky. After police officers responded to that knife attack on 2 Jewish men last week, cue much anger, of course. He has been charged. So it's an ongoing legal case, so it's difficult. I don't want to talk about him. I want to talk about the fact that the Green Party leader is now concentrating on saying was proportionate force used by those 2 brave police officers. For me, I've been very honest. If somebody just said, if somebody's approaching you with a knife that has a backpack that could have a detonable device in, you'd do anything. And I've been very critical of the police, but I think it smacks so much of where we've got to in this country that we're not looking or talking about the actual act. We're talking about whether police did right or not, Jake.
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable that amid sky-high anti-Semitism, unprecedented levels of Jew hatred all over the country, where Jews have been murdered in Manchester, arson attacks against their synagogues and ambulances, and now a stabbing, that the debate that Palansky seems to want to have is whether the police were right to disarm the knifeman by kicking him in the head. I mean, let's look at the facts. As I've heard from policemen testifying to this, that a taser only works for a few seconds. It doesn't put him out forever. So once you tase the guy, you've then got to get the knife out of his clamped hand. And he was, if you look at the video, clearly holding it to his chest, not willing to give it up. Now, if that taser, if the effects would have worn off, then he would have been lashing out with it. So the police obviously had a limited time to get it out of his hand. And I mean, why are we even talking about this? Yeah. This is a chap who attempted murder of 2 Jewish people because they were Jewish. And this is where the conversation has become deflected. It feels like there's some kind of vested interest of, let's not talk about the threats that Jews are facing, or any other. I mean, you know, I'm not saying Jews because they're Jews. I mean, if any racial minority was facing this level of hostility, there'd be marches up and down the country. We're not seeing it. Yes, there's a lot in the news and the politicians are talking about it, but where are the marches in defence of Jews up and down the country? I don't see it.
Do you, I mean, I had this conversation the other day with a high-ranking person at the Jewish deputies, and he just said to me, I don't recognise the country I'm now in. I don't recognise how I feel as a Jewish man who's lived here all of his life. 257,000 Jews live in this country, and I wanted to ask you this, because we were talking about it earlier. If we separate what some people believe, think Netanyahu, let's get away from that. Let's talk about the basic human point of, is there jealousy about the Jewish community? Jealous that after the horrors that happened to them, they became insular and made a success of their lives? Where does this hatred, pure hatred that we see so often, where does it come from, Jake?
Well, it's got extremely long roots, stretching back thousands of years, of course. Initially, it started with the idea that Jews killed Jesus, which was untrue, but that became the basis of anti-Semitism initially in the Middle Ages and so on. Then, during the Second World War, it became a racial thing. Jews were racially inferior and malevolent, you know, controlling the banks, controlling the media. I mean, chance will be a fine thing, and so on and so forth. And these days, it's become a kind of political thing, that Jews are hated because they have their own country and their nation state. But I think that there's something else going on here as well, which is that in this day and age, in a country where you're not allowed to fly your flag, it's taboo to be patriotic, it's taboo to say, actually, we don't want foreigners coming over here illegally and committing crime. You're not even allowed to say that or you'll be Islamophobic. Jewish people are a provocation because Jewish people know who they are proud of who they are, still have the old values that we used to have in this country in abundance of family, of community, of pride, of being unafraid to fight for yourself and defend yourself and stand up for your own values. And we're, you know, our political elites are trying to tamp that down in our country. And I think that they look at Jews, they think, you know what, you're just not very fashionable at the moment. And so there's less of an impulse to defend them on top of centuries and centuries of anti-Semitism that at the moment is focusing on through the prism of hatred of Israel, or as I call it, Israelophobia.
In terms of, and we haven't got an awful lot of time, but I want to ask you this, as a Jewish person, how do people feel? What's it like living here? What's it like living amongst that fear and concern?
I think for a lot of, for Jewish people, certainly those living inside the Jewish community, you feel like you're living under witness protection a lot of the time. Because whenever you go to your school or go to your synagogue or a community centre or any event, there's always airport style levels of security protecting you. And the more attacks they are, rather than solving the root cause of the problem, which is a lot of Islamists in this country and a lot of far left people giving them cover, rather than addressing that, the Prime Minister simply wants to give more money to build higher walls, more people with machine guns and more security. So it's like living increasingly behind Fort Knox, like you're in prison when you haven't done anything wrong. It's like the prisoners are free to roam the streets and the people who are law-abiding are the ones who have to be protected. It's totally topsy-turvy.
How does it change, very briefly, how does it change in your mind?
It changes with a clampdown on anti-Semitism across the board. We need a dedicated police unit dedicated towards anti-Semitism, a dedicated CPS unit towards anti-Semitism. We need a counter-propaganda campaign from the government to say, no, Israel is not baby killers, Jews are not evil, rolled out across the media, across the arts. We need the depoliticization of our universities. We need to root out anti-Semitism in this way from the NHS, from the civil service, and even from the backbenches of Parliament, quite frankly. We need to stop the Muslim extremists from using our tolerances and our freedoms to overturn those tolerances and those freedoms. The Jews are first in the firing line, but actually they're coming for you and coming for me, coming for this country, and we've got to stop them before it's too late.
Jake Simons, thank you so much indeed. Love having you on the show. Author of Never Again, How the West Betrayed Jews in Itself. Let's head to Westminster to get a response from the Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, Mel Stride MP. He's got the big job like me on a bank holiday Monday. Morning, Mel.
Good morning, Jeremy. What better way to spend it than with you?
Get you with the new haircut. Can I get straight to what Jake Simmons was talking about? I did a whole show on this on Thursday. Let's firstly talk about anti-Semitism. Your leader, Kemi Badenoch, has been quite vocal about this. It is disgusting. And I understand the Jewish community are sick of platitudes, Mel. It's time for action, is it not?
Yes, absolutely, and we haven't seen enough of it. We've got a rising tide of vile anti-Semitism in our country, and Kemi Badenoch has described this as a national emergency, and I think she's absolutely right. What we need is a very robust approach to this problem. So in terms of policing, for example, we need to put more resource into that. We need to, even in certain areas where really vile things can happen in Jewish communities, we need to have armed officers actually available in the area to act swiftly as and when required. We also need to make sure that justice is served swiftly when incidents do occur and people step over that line. And I think the third thing I would say is around the comments made by Jonathan Hall, the government's independent advisor on terrorism, who is suggesting a moratorium on these marches, which have become less and less about Palestinian issues and so on, and more about anti-Semitism and some of the language that's being used. There is no doubt. There is no doubt. They've been used.
I agree with you. There is no doubt that those marches spew hatred, and there is no doubt that we all want to live in a society where free speech is prevalent. But there comes a point where a line is crossed. Can I ask you to respond to Zack, the leader of the Green Party? He ignited a big row over the Golders Green terror attack. We'll know that after police officers responded to a knife attack on 2 Jewish men, the suspect has been charged. So we have to be careful legally, Mel. But this man says or believes that it's more important to attack whether it was proportionate force used by 2 brave policemen who were faced by a bloke with a knife who potentially could have had a device in his rucksack than deal with the issue. And this man's a Jew. This has caused absolute outrage. And does it not, with respect on a national level, speak entirely that this party has become, this is my opinion, a mop-up of all the people that followed Jeremy Corbyn and voted him? I think it's very frightening.
Yeah, what this speaks to, as I think you've hit the nail on the head, is the fact that the Green Party now is leaning into these issues in a very unhealthy and divisive way, and that is why Zack Palansky is very reticent to properly resile from the inappropriate remarks he made and forwarding of that email criticising the police at a time when, of course, they were in huge personal danger and dealing with somebody who was extremely dangerous. And, you know, people are going to start seeing the Greens more and more for what they are, and it's broader than the anti-Semitism that we're referring to here. It's also about, you know, their approach to the economy, which is absolutely mad fantasy economics, wanting to pull out of NATO, wanting to legalise crack cocaine, heroin, and so on. This is a party that is way away from where it was many years ago as a kind of, you know, the vanguard of standing up on the environment. It's become something else, and we need to expose this.
Couldn't agree more. As the Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, I'd love your response to the latest news. Starmer's landed in Armenia and made no secret of the fact. It's on the front of every newspaper. Britain told to pay £1 billion a year to EU after reset. With everything that's going on in this country, people can't pay their bills. Our Prime Minister wants to go against the will of the British people and spend money we haven't got, Mel. Where's he going to get it from?
Well, that's absolutely right. We don't want to be paying this money over to the European Union. And the reason why, one of the reasons why we don't want to be doing that is we cannot afford it, Jeremy. We can't afford it because this Labour Party and Chancellor have completely mismanaged the economy. You know, we're looking at unemployment at a 5-year high now. We've had very sluggish growth. In terms of inflation being high, we're an outlier compared to other countries. We've run up debt like there's no tomorrow, and we're in a very fragile position in a very dangerous and uncertain world, and that is down to the choices that this government has taken.
Just very quickly, do you believe that he will try and force through closer ties with Europe? Are you on the Conservative side concerned about that? Or is this rhetoric for a man who frankly would know that his days are numbered, Mel?
I think it's very difficult to judge, Jeremy, what the impetus is of impulses of the Prime Minister. I mean, he's desperately hanging on by his fingernails. We do know that there's a groundswell of support for this kind of move from Labour MPs and indeed Labour voters in the country. So he's probably being pushed to some degree by that. But look, we've got a Labour government here that's messed up the economy and is desperately flailing around for any possible avenue just to get some kind of relief from the kind of mess that they've created.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? We've talked about this so many times. You can have a policy that's unpopular, but at least prove to the people that you believe it and don't just jump on the latest thing. That's what I've said about the Green Party. I don't believe... I mean, at least with Corbyn, I genuinely believe that he thought these things, which frightened me enough. But if you have parties who just pick up things to go with something to get traction because a focus group said it's a good idea, I think you're in danger. Mel, we're both on that bank holiday job, mate. Thank you so much indeed, as ever. Great to hear from him. Shadowed Chancellor of the Exchequer, Mel Stride from the Tory party. 17 minutes to 8 o'clock. We're live across the UK. We'll do Royals next on Talk Breakfast. Don't go anywhere.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Goodness me, look at that, right on 8:15, Bank Holiday Monday. Where are you in the United Kingdom? What are you doing for this Bank Holiday? You're probably still asleep. Why would I be talking to you then? If you're up and at it, 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Morning, Paul.
Yes, it's Paul, the plumber from Birmingham. The roads are very clear. I'm heading on my way to work. The joys of being self-employed. Been in work since I was 16. Always have been and always will be. This country, oh my God. No, the roads are clear now and there's a lot of people off genuinely working who've got holidays and stuff. But my God, sometimes when I do my tax returns, which I have to do 4 of, by the way, this year, where are we? Do you know what I mean? What is going on? What is going on in this country? We'll probably have the World Cup. We'll put a flag up and the police will knock the door and say, can you take that down, please? It's racist. I think we're lost, mate, honestly. Bring back the 90s, that's what I say. Great show, mate.
Bring back the 80s, I say. He's right, though. What's going to happen during the World Cup? Our sister station will have the most incredible coverage, by the way, this summer of the World Cup on TalkSport. But what's going to happen if you hang a flag up? The police going to... What about those cars with those ones that hang out the windows? Are they going to be arrested for that? Interesting. Andy, apart from... he says he's in sunny Jersey. Enjoying a relaxing day off, Git. So happy not paying taxes to support the trade to starve. I love the way you guys show support and love to the Jewish people. Love your show. Have a great day. Thank you. Michael Roberts in Hockley. Am I missing something? Because I don't remember ever voting to rejoin the EU. No, Michael, we didn't, but your vote's irrelevant. No, sorry. Don't even imagine you're important, Michael in Hockley, you ridiculous human being. Bill's in Cheshire. Angela Rayner, given the extremely low gene pool of the Labour front bench, she's probably the only viable candidate. She will, of course, be absolutely useless, but it will be quite a bloody laugh. Yes, you see, this is the reason that I would... Yes, I get that, but I'm not sure that's a good enough reason for her to become the next Prime Minister. 0344 499 1000. Last time I spoke to my next guest, I didn't have an awful lot of time. Today we've got a bit more. Royal commentator, right on the money. Delighted to say a very good morning. Former BBC man as well. Michael Cole, smart as anything this morning. How are you, dear boy?
Good morning. Happy bank holiday morning to you, Jeremy. What a week we had last week. That week that the King had with the Queen in the United States. It was the most testing and toughest week he had since his coronation. You know, I looked at the film of him climbing the aircraft steps at the end of the visit to Bermuda, holding the handrail, and he looked very, very tired indeed. Hardly surprising, he'd be 78 in November. He's contending with cancer. And when he stood at the top and he gave a little wave to the island he first visited as a young Prince of Wales, you know, it was rather poignant. I don't know whether it'll be a farewell wave, but certainly there was a lot of emotion in it. And I think he could have got on that aircraft to come home feeling very, very satisfied. On these trips, there's always a debrief on the plane coming back, and I'm sure he and his advisors, his courtiers, the people who were with him, decided it was a triumph. And I think it was a triumph of soft diplomacy, but very much a personal triumph for him, because that centerpiece, that speech in Congress, during which members of Congress rose to their feet 11 times, standing ovations, was really quite something. And it was 98% Charles, I can assure you of that, with a couple of bits stuffed in about policy at the behest of the government, Sir Keir Starmer. But it was a marvellous delivery of a very well thought out speech, which I think covered all the bases and said what is important about the long alliance, the profitable alliance, the loyalty that has existed between our two countries. And I think it did more good than diplomacy in another form could ever have done.
It's really weird, Michael. I said I've got other stuff, but I will say this, and I said it last week. Sounds very disrespectful to say to a 70-year-old monarch. I thought he came of age. I thought he reinforced absolutely in people's minds what the monarchy can do with all the headlines and all the stuff and all of that that's gone on. I just thought that it showed to something that really mattered. And yeah, we can look at it in a sort of, you know, in a flippant way and go, he had Trump eating out of his hands. And of course, he wasn't barely on the plane when Trump wasn't slagging off Starmer. But beyond that and above that, I thought his humour, I thought the speeches, I just thought his general demeanour was nothing short of brilliant. And I think he deserves huge, huge credit. There is a story, Michael, which will make you laugh. Do you know what Saturday Night Live is in America?
Oh, yes, I do.
Have you seen this? This is a great show. This is very, very funny. One of the comedians, Colin Joyce, is actually married to Scarlett Johansson, made a rather brutal gag about King Charles's visit, but it wasn't about King Charles. Have a watch. This is fantastic. Play the clip, please.
King Charles visited the U.S. to mark the 250th anniversary of American independence from Britain and to seek the release of a British hostage being held by an American terrorist. King Charles also presented President Trump with the original bell from a British submarine and said, "Should you ever need to get a hold of us, just give us a ring." Or Trump could just call the guy saved in his phone as Andrew Island.
Michael, the picture of Harry and Meghan as he said the King arrived in America to get the release of a British person being held by an American terrorist. That's actually quite amusing, isn't it, to be fair?
Well, the way that they laughed at it, they immediately got the joke. I mean, there seems to be no doubt about it. Speculating who wears the pants in that particular family Of course, it's very apparent how much Prince Harry misses this country, misses his friends, misses the way of life here. I mean, California is wonderful, but it's more or less the same weather every day, the same people every day. And unless you're very deeply involved in the entertainment industry, it can be rather boring. Over here, there's diversity. He loves the sports, he loves the rugby, he loves everything, and his friends are here. And there's no doubt that he misses it. And he desperately wants, I think, a reconciliation with his father. How easy that's going to be, one would say never. But it's going to be very, very difficult. And with regard to a reconciliation with his brother, the Prince of Wales, I think that's an absolute no-no. But the jokes landed very well. And also, whoever it was who found the bell from HMS Trent, a submarine that had service in the Pacific, was absolutely brilliant. HMS Trump, I mean, he was delighted by it. Trump was, like a kid who had his Christmas present more than he ever expected. And the King delivered the joke extraordinarily well. Perhaps he's got a future on Saturday Night Live. You never know.
You might be right. Just Harry, this is quite a direct question. I had it with my old man, bless his, God rest his soul. He's going to leave her soon, isn't he?
Well, it's interesting. This is her second marriage, of course. In America, I'm not saying that they're like this, but they're serial monogamists, aren't they? They have several marriages and they move on and they change their lives. That's part of the American dream, the pursuit of happiness and so on and so forth. One hopes that the marriage endures. I mean, because you hate to see divorced people get damaged in that, and it's very, very difficult for the children. We don't know. That's the matter. I mean,
I think she will become more and more bitter as her star, there isn't even a star, wanes, and the chances to earn a living become harder and harder. And I agree with you, and I don't want to be disrespectful on a bank holiday, but I'm pretty sure I could describe why he got with her in the first place. I think the reality is probably dawning for him, though, having spewed what he did against his family. I'm cynical, Michael. I know that he wants a reconciliation with his father. Presumably he knows his father is ill. But I think he's also cynical enough, Harry, to know what you said is right. Not a chance with his brother or his brother's wife. Goose is cooked, and if his father is ill and doesn't last too much longer, he will be shut out forever. But she cannot, in all fairness, whether or not your wife or you're under the control of or whatever is telling you whatever, the truth of the matter is, if you diss your family, if you diss the very institution from which you are part of, and it's the only thing, by the way, Harry, that people are interested in you is because you are a prince, right? If you diss that, what have you got? That's what she's found out. We've gone from the Duchess of Sussex to somebody, and people laugh at me, who makes and markets jam, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. Well, they're in a position where they have to keep going forward, rather like a shark. They have to keep going forward to sell themselves, to get more money. They've got a very, very expensive lifestyle, living in their mansion, 24-hour day security, 3 shifts of hefty men, all the electronics surveillance and so on. That is expensive. You have to, and what are they're selling? They're selling themselves. And as you say, what they're interested in, Prince Harry, is that he was a member of the royal family and remains a member of the royal family, although, as you so rightly say, in his books and in his television programs, he's been disobliging about almost every member of the royal family, including the Queen. He said some bitter things about her, which I'm sure didn't go down very well with the King at all. It's the greatest pity, because he had that gift.
He did.
He had that gift of communicating, which he got from his mother. He was doing such great work in the Invictus Games. Let's give tribute to that. A brilliant concept. But when you think of him, when he used to be on the running track with Usain Bolt, and he tapped him on the shoulder and he ran, he was full of fun. You don't actually see that anymore.
She's drained it out of him. She's drained it out of him. The boy's whipped. I mean, that's a fact. But listen, we could talk all day. I think he probably realises that he's messed up. I think it's too far and beyond the pale. But I think, just to finish, the great thing last week was that for all the doubters and the naysayers, I think the monarchy in the hands of the King and Queen put itself back where it needs to be. Michael, bless you. Enjoy your bank holiday. The legend that is Michael Cole, royal commentator, almost 8 o'clock. We're live across the UK. A very good morning to you on Bank Holiday Monday. Store Breakfast, the home of common sense. Starmer's in Armenia. Zack Palansky is criticising the Metropolitan Police, and 625,000 households on benefits are better off than you and me. All of that and Zia Yusuf and Matthew Torbit next after the news at 8, which, my friends, is next on the home of common sense. This is Talk. Good morning. Starmer fueling anti-Semitism?
I don't think he's doing anything to deal with anti-Semitism. The attempt to gaslight the British people and the Jewish community is appalling.
This has to stop. It's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk. the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. If you are just joining us, I've been here since 6. If you've been here since 6, thank you, Alarm Clock Britain. It's Bank Holiday Monday. You were Talk Breakfast, the home, of course, of common sense and the home of the Alarm Clock Britain. What are you doing on this bank holiday? Some of us are working. Double bubble, according to Mark, behind the glass. 0344 499 1000. That's the telephone number you need. You can send that voice note. You can text us 87222. What are you waking up to? Well, you're waking up to the fact that our Prime Minister is in Armenia. Yeah, he's in Armenia. I'm not quite sure why. Apparently, it's to do with the fact that it's in our national interest for him to forge closer relationships with Europe and give them £1 billion that we haven't got. Why is he in Armenia? I've no idea. Mrs. Starmer, this is a story that's come out. I can't verify this. No longer wants to live in number 10. Apparently, she doesn't like being associated with all the stuff that comes with being the Prime Minister's wife. I have no idea about the truth behind that. We've been talking about Zack Palansky after police officers responded to that knife attack on 2 Jewish men last week. Outrage from all sides when the Green Party leader last week criticised the response of the Metropolitan Police officers and said it was disproportionate. All sides have had their say. What is yours? 0344 499 1000. My favourite line of this morning is that 625,000 households in this country on benefits are better off than 625,000 households of people going, like Alarm Clock Brits, to work. I do beg to ask this question. What is the point? How did I ever think I'd say this? What is the point of going to work? I also posed a question. As the vultures circle and Starmer rushes off to Armenia, I had this epiphany this weekend. Well, I wouldn't call it this epiphany. It was a slightly worrying moment where I thought to myself, Starmer's the most unpopular Prime Minister in the history of the world, but what's the alternative? Angela Rayner, Ed Miliband, roundly turned off by the British people in 2015, David Calamity, whatever his name is, and, of course, the Messiah, Andy Burnham, still not in Parliament, but apparently everybody says that he is the man. Now, I asked Manchester, do you know him? What has he done that would make him better than the one? Well, listen, my 6-year-olds do a better job than Starmer, but what would make Andy Burnham the man? Morning, Damon.
Jeremy Damon from Wigan. Andy Burnham has done nothing for the outskirts of Greater Manchester. I live on the outskirts of Greater Manchester, and any money that he gets goes straight into Manchester town centre. But the only thing he's done since I returned to Manchester in 2021 is put the B Network bus service on. Apart from that, I've got no idea how he stayed as mayor for so long.
Hello to Dunk in Salford. I used to work in Salford. Jez, don't believe the hype about Burnham. Manchester is like a third world country. Piccadilly Gardens are full of crack and spice heads. Crime's through the roof. It's shocking. The regeneration is mainly down to money from football owners. Great. Morning, Jez. Great show. It's my first bank holiday off in 5 years, and I'm enjoying a morning in bed watching your show in Altrincham. How very posh of you. 0344 499 1000. Matthew Talbot, former Labour advisor in a tick. First up, though, we're delighted to say a very good morning to the Reform's UK Shadow Home Secretary, Zia Youssef. Good morning, Zia. How are you?
Good morning.
Bank Holiday Monday and you're still at it. Great piece in the Mail today about Reform. We'll hold 24,000 migrants in areas that vote for the Greens. Tell us more, Zia.
Well, as you know, Reform has announced our plan to deport all illegal migrants in Britain. It's called Operation Restoring Justice. Now, as part of that plan, we will need to detain 24,000 at least illegal migrants at any time. They will not be able to come and go as they please. They will be detained there. They will be held there for a couple of weeks before being deported. But we appreciate that there are strong feelings that some people have about living near such detention centres, and therefore we want to make really clear what our plans are and make a commitment to the British people. Based on the upcoming local election results and the general election results, we will guarantee that a Reform government will not place an illegal migrant detention centre in any constituencies run by a Reform MP or in any areas with a Reform council. And of the remaining areas, given, of course, the Green Party advocates for open borders and announced basically they want an infinite number of undocumented men to come here, we'll prioritise Green-controlled parliamentary constituencies and Green-controlled councils to put those sites. That way, this is an exercise in democratic consent, and we will not just have democratic consent for our mass deportation plan, which we know is extremely popular, but also for perhaps the more the areas which could get more tense, i.e. where we're going to have to put these detention facilities. So this is how we get that democratic consent.
So forgive me, I agree and understand with the sentiment, right? And I was literally, I'd written down before you picked up on it when I was saying, well, where are you going to put this? If you build them in areas that are run by Green councils, how do you answer the fact that you're surely punishing voters in those constituencies who didn't vote Green?
So this isn't about punishing anybody. As I said, this is about maximising democratic consent. And, you know, in order to actually do a mass deportation policy, you know, we've worked through the entire plan, you know, cover to cover. And in order to do that, we know we will have to erect detention facilities for 24,000 illegal migrants.
Why that number's here as well?
And we know for a fact that there's going to be some tension around that.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is be clear about how we will make such decisions, and make such decisions, by the way, immune from judicial review and all of the merry-go-round of things that happen. So what we're trying to do here is please as many people as possible, which I'm sure you agree, Jeremy, is all one can ever really hope to do in politics.
No, I agree. And listen, Operation Restoring Justice, I get that. And I've often thought, you know, I've said it to you personally, I've said it to you publicly. The sentiment is great, the reality on the streets, and I get the immigration centres. But my point is this. Here's another question. How'd you come up with 24,000? Where's that number come from?
So generally, if you look at countries that have done, that have had successful mass deportation programs, for example, America, and a lot of people like to talk about Trump, but what they don't talk about is the fact that President Obama deported more than Trump has done, including enforced deportations. He earned the moniker deporter-in-chief when he was president. And so what you find is the successful programs, as long as you get the legislation right and judges can't keep illegal migrants here indefinitely through litigation, what you find is you need to hold people in detention for around 3 to 4 weeks. That's generally the average holding time. And so what that would mean is if you get to 24,000 in terms of detention places, that will allow us over a 5-year period the potential, the maximum capacity to deport just under 1.5 million people. And so that's where we got the 24,000 number from. You need a little bit of excess capacity. Again, to do something like this, which has never been done before in the history of this country, it's not going to be an easy thing to do. We've got to get the legislation right. We've got to obviously first of all, got to win the elections. We've got to win a majority. If Nigel's our prime minister, you need a home secretary and a prime minister really want to do this. But then ultimately, you also need a really strong logistics program. We're going to need emergency powers to build these detention facilities. So that's where the 24,000 comes from. That will allow us, as I said, the ability, the maximum capacity to deport just under 1.5 million pounds over the 1.5 million migrants over the course of a parliament.
Okay, imagine me now as a voter, actually, not as a broadcaster, because there's a couple of things that I would want to ask, right? So, presumably, one of the big problems with what's going on at the moment is, and I'm not trying to slag off every border official. I came into the country the other day, and God, they've probably got a difficult job. But surely, if you're going to come up with a plan, Operation Restoring Justice, you need a crack team of border force officials trained with an inch of their life who are not going to go, oh, you're 11, are you, despite the fact you've got a white beard and you look 60. There will be people who will be using common sense. My other question, which I get asked the whole time, Zia, is they look at America, which you're right about Obama, but of course everybody thinks it was Trump with his ICE-style sort of unit taking people off the streets. How are you going to do that? Do you see reform recruiting that sort of body? I know there won't be weapons. Will it be forceful? Because that, of course, is you're right, half the country go, oh, the other half go, it's needed. So how do you imagine getting these people to put them in those centres, finding these people and basically arresting these people?
So we will need a new agency. We're calling it UK Deportation Command, and that agency will have considerable power and will have one focus and one focus only, and that is identifying, detaining and deporting every illegal migrant in the country. That is all that they will do. They will not need to carry firearms. And, you know, the analogy with what happened in Minnesota stuff is completely bogus. That's like saying, well, you know, if somebody said today that we needed to introduce a police force, then what the Guardian would do, because, let's go and look at Chicago, let's go and look at Detroit, and look how many armed altercations there are between police and civilians and, you know, all of that stuff. The reality is, I've spent a lot of time in America. America's a very different country, and there are more firearms in America than there are people. It makes any form of law enforcement extremely difficult. I don't envy the job that they.
But the point is valid. How
like
do you think
Britain.
people?
But, also, one last point. I want to make. What's the alternative then? The alternative is we just accept millions of illegal people in this country. They get to stay forever. Many of them, most of them, living off benefits and cost this country its financial solvency and really destroy the future of the children of Britain. That is an unacceptable future.
Listen, I don't disagree with the sentiment. I just have this vision in my head of how split this country is. 20% of this country nationally in a poll over the weekend agreed with a man who thinks that those police officers responding to a knife attack on 2 Jewish men used disproportionate force. And so one wonders when that lot jump up and down where these people are being taken. I'm not talking about unrest, but it's going to cause a furore, isn't it? Without any shadow of a doubt, if this happens.
Yeah, look, so there's a couple of points I'd make. In terms of how split the country is, poll after poll, including from YouGov, have polled whether the British public, British voters, want to see all illegal migrants deported in a mass deportation programme. And poll after poll shows it's extremely popular, with a considerable majority of the country, including many Labour voters, currently including Lib Dem voters, want to see that. So that's the first point. This is a very popular thing. People are sick and tired of being promised secure borders and then being presented with open borders by the Tories and Labour, number one. Number two, we will not back down in delivering. If the British public choose to vote in a reformed government, and Nigel's the Prime Minister and I'm the Home Secretary, we're not going to back down to a small minority of people who want to continue to advocate for open borders in this country. We simply won't do it. So you're not going to see anything like, I totally reject the false hysterical comparisons to what happened in Minnesota. That like I said, it's like trying to compare the British police force with. But
it's about will, isn't it, Zia?
It's about. We will not back down, and we're not going to be intimidated by people who try to a small minority of people who try to impose their dystopian vision of Britain onto the lovely people of Britain, who I hope will give us the democratic consent and mandate to carry out our plans.
And I think that phrase, actually, the will of politicians, has been questioned so absolutely in recent months and years. Politicians who have seemingly turned a 360, a 180, whatever you want to say, because a focus group has told them, or they get the first sign of, oh, we're not happy. That's what I think British voters want. I've always thought that conviction politicians, personal opinion here, whether I agree with them or not, they're going to do it at all costs. They've at least got a vision. What we have at the moment is a Prime Minister who has no conviction because he has no DNA. And before that, we had 14 years of let's change our leader. Mate, I'm very grateful for your time this morning. You know I have to do this job, and we wouldn't be doing our jobs without asking the question, what is Reform as a party worried about the Electoral Commission investigation into Nigel Farage's undisclosed £5 million foreign aid gifts here? I have to ask that question of you this morning.
No, not at all. Not at all. And, I've read the Code of Conduct cover to cover. It's crystal clear in Chapter 3, Section 25, that the Tories, and this is all the Tory kind of opposition research group behind all of this, they're barking up the wrong tree. They reported Matt Goodwin to the police during the Gorton and Denton by-election. Do you remember that? Over a printing error that was literally made by the printers, and the printers said it was their error. They said that publicly, and obviously the police dismissed that. So look, no, we're not concerned at all. It's obviously a few days before what I think will be the second most important set of elections in this country's history, other than the general election. These are really important elections, so it's really no surprise that the Tory Uni Party, Labour, every party really, because they've got no ideas of their own. They're deeply unpopular, want to throw as much mud at Nigel to hope something sticks. I don't think it will.
Mate, thank you so much. Really good to hear. It's on page 10 in the Mail this morning. Reform will hold 24,000 migrants in areas that vote for the Greens. Zia Youssef, Shadow Home Secretary, if Reform are elected. Thank you for joining us on Talk Breakfast. Just gone 8:15. Let's get, I was going to say a Labour perspective, but he's not a Labour candidate. He was a daddy-to-be, and he's smiling like a cherub. Hello, Daddy.
Well, that's an interesting introduction, Jez. Morning.
What did I say to you off air about being a daddy?
I don't know. You tell everyone.
No sleep, no sex and no money. You enjoy it, my son, because it's absolute hell on earth / OK occasionally. Isn't it, Christian? No, Christian's new. He thinks it's amazing. Great to have you. I haven't seen you for ages.
Yes.
Let's get straight to it. Start with Zia and Reform. He says, Operation Restore Justice. People will be taken. They'll be held. I had to ask the question, what about the people that didn't vote areas? I'm not actually bothered about where those areas are. They say, Reform, that they have the will to do something that, with respect, is central to millions and millions of people's minds in this country. People have had enough of platitudes, a bit like stopping the boats. Here's a party who are actually saying we're going to damn well do something about it. Can they do something about it?
No. It all sounds very nice, a nice gimmick. I think this is part of a broader reform strategy from people I've spoke to there. Zia won't be happy. That they know this will be challenged in the courts. You cannot retrospectively and unilaterally go back on decisions that have already been made with regards to people's status and then go, actually, no, we're changing our mind now. It's not going to work like that.
Why can't you?
Because the courts have ruled.
What if you say that the courts... You say retrospectively, but if the people in charge have a different opinion, why can't they go back to the court and say, we need you to look at it through a different prism?
Because where's the fairness in that? I think.
Where's the fairness in people paying their bills who are absolutely on the back foot because there's so many people coming to this country wrongly? What I'm asking you is this, whether we talk legally, do you think there is an appetite in this country, this doesn't have to be pro or anti-reform or Restore or Greens or Liberal Democrats, I'm asking you this, do you think that the British people are so fed up with airy-fairy platitudes that they would swallow, right, Operation Restore Justice, people being taken off the streets and put in detention centres and a government saying to a court, no, you can do it, I'll get rid of you and I'll get a new set of judges in because this is what's going to happen?
So you didn't ask me that. You said, couldn't they do it? I said, no. The courts will rule against it.
No, imagine we're in the pub. I should have asked you that initially, but do you think the British people will handle that? I do.
There's an appetite for dealing with immigration. It's interesting that they're going to have to go down this route because yesterday the Times reported that small boat crossings are down by 2/3 compared on last year. So there appears to be movement there, whether it be government-led or not. There's those that are running these organised crime gangs can't get the parts for the boats anymore because I think there's a European-wide look at stopping these parts getting to certain parts of whether it be Belgium or France. So that may be less of an issue come election time. We'll have to wait and see. But again, is there an appetite to deal with it? Yes, I think people are frustrated. People feel that life is unfair. I would like to see further political will. I like the fact that you asked about political will. Where's the political will to gather the skill shortage in this country? If we're going to kick out whatever the figures were, so you had 20-odd thousand, which the figures I've got for skilled visas or people coming in under refugee status are more than that. So it depends what figures he's seen. About 50% of them are in work. We already have a skill shortage in this country, so...
Why don't we train the people that are on long-term benefits who aren't mentally or disabled and get them in those jobs?
I would welcome tackling
and close the borders.
Bill.
I think it's an absolute joke that I've thought it forever.
But they're not saying that. I wouldn't be against that.
I've said that for ages.
We have to look at the welfare bill. We have to look at the overdiagnosis in mental health and what is good for mental health.
Good for you, mate.
I think if you take the majority of people off PIP that don't need it with regard, unless you're in a severe mental health issue, you save up to £7 billion. Yeah. It'll only cost you £500 million to put on, I think it's 100,000 or even close to 1 million talking therapy sessions. You go and have your talking therapy,
we agree on something.
But
I also want people, and genuinely it sounds hard, so you have to hear me out, right? I'd stop saying it's fruit pickers, hospital porters as well. I'm not really disrespectful. I hear this argument about doctors. There are manual jobs that there are people who are long-term unemployed who would actually mentally benefit from getting out of bed, getting on the CV, and what it would say to the country that's paying for them. And we get frustrated alarm corporates because they're not seemingly doing anything, the people who are gaming the system. You're giving something back, you're getting motivated, you're getting on your CV, we're all doing our bit. As much as we're paying tax, you're giving something back whilst we're helping you look for something. I don't see why that hasn't been implemented years ago. That is beyond my comprehension, that a politician hasn't gone, we're costing ourselves money here, we're paying billions in benefit. You know this, since COVID, you don't even have to go and sit in front of somebody. You can ring up and go, oh, I'm feeling mentally ill and I'm a bit stressed and full of anxiety. Oh, we'll sign you off for a year then. What a load of old... That's terrible, Matt.
I think there's a danger of doctors...
And insults the genuine people, doesn't it?
Well, there's an overdiagnosis, and I think doctors are wary of challenging people, and actually there's a psychology behind this. People like to have the box of pills because they feel like there's a solution. If the doctor was to prescribe exercise, better eating and whatever else, that can tackle a lot of things like that. I can only speak for myself, but the times I've been unemployed, I do feel depressed. You don't have a purpose in life. Routine is a big part of it for me.
But the routine of doing something, community service I'm going to call it, and you'll laugh, does that not help you?
I think volunteering is a good thing to do. I suppose you've got to tackle travel into that, and therefore people have got to get some element of benefit to be able to get to the volunteering. And yeah, I think it's definitely a good thing. I don't want to force people that can't.
No, I'm talking about the people that can, that are not. We have to. I think we have to have a debate in this country. And I get it every time I have this debate, right? Genuine people will ring me and I have the same answer the whole time. I'm saying this for you as well, because there are genuine people missing out because people are taking advantage of the system, and that's where I think wrong. We don't have all the time, but I want to talk to you about so much. Starmer has gone to Armenia. Why has he gone to Armenia?
He's going to get us a deal with Europe, isn't he?
Yes. What do you think about that, by the way? $1 billion. Where are we getting the £1 billion for to cosy up to Europe? I thought we were skinned.
Good deal. Very good deal.
What's a good deal?
If we can get access to the single market for £1 billion, I'd snap their hands off.
Why? The British people don't want a single market. They don't want to join the EU. They voted against it.
No one's joining the EU. And this is the frustrating thing about this Brexit. This is why I hate talking about Brexit, right? Cards on the table, I was a reluctant Remainer. I thought both sides were horrific with regards to what they were offering, lies that were told and everything else. I wasn't motivated to go out and vote. Well, I always thought if we want to leave the framework, people have voted for that. We voted leave the EU. We don't have elections. We don't go to Brussels. We don't take part. That's fine. No issue with that. Why shoot yourself in the foot economically? Most of us that voted Remain probably would have took some aspect of EEA, similar to a Swiss-type deal. Because if you want to take your football home and not let everyone else play with it, that's fine. You don't need to take it home and pop it with a knife so that you can't play with it. And that's what we did economically, Jez. Most studies will tell you 4% of GDP was wiped off, right, leaving the EU. If that's a benefit for people because of democracy, I get it, it's fine. Tony Benn used to say it, one of my political heroes, a lot of lefties would say it. So, at the minute, we signed trade deals with Japan and India. There's a framework to get one with the US. Don't think it'll happen. But that's made up just short of 1% of GDP. So 1% is what we're getting back. 4% is what we lost leaving Europe. So if we can pay £1 billion, you're going to get about 100 billion back in both imports and exports.
Why wouldn't you use the £1 billion to cut taxes for hard-working alarm-clock Brits who don't even think they've had any breath at all given them in the last 3 years?
Because I don't think that would still give them enough to promote growth in this country. That's the other aspect.
I voted cards on table to leave because I wanted Great Britain and Ireland, and this is me being honest, to do the things that Starmer said he was going to do, to prove that we could make things and sell things and be competitive and be as we used to be, which was the best in the world. I use this example and people frown at me. After the Second World War, Germany went into itself because of the sanctions that were imposed after what had happened, and they became one of the most vibrant economies. Think about BMW, think about Bang & Olufsen, Bosch, whatever it is. All those companies became hugely successful. Think of Germany now. And I believe that we could do that. But what's happened is, and you're going to say it's because of Europe, I'm going to say that might in part be the reason, but I think there's other reasons. We seem to be economically in an even worse place than we ever were before. Now, personally, I don't think Brexit was ever implemented as it was meant to be implemented, but I'm with you, it's a complete disaster. This man, to me, and this isn't being personal, I'm not sure why he's chasing this dream. Maybe he's eyeing a job in the EU. I mean, the vultures are circling at home and he's in Armenia. Mrs Starmer apparently has left Number 10. Have you heard that story this morning?
I've heard all sorts, but it's, gossip and tittle-tattle. It's not for me to get involved.
I love. That tells you everything you want to know, listeners. Let's talk about your ex-party. I take your points about the EU.
Can I just say very quickly, though?
You can say whatever you want.
I agree with you. We should have an industry. We've not had an industrial strategy since the 80s.
And that's why I genuinely thought we would get that back. Do you understand that? I did. That's why I voted for it. I thought we could lead the world again in making stuff and selling stuff.
That upsets me, because lots of people did, and it was sold as a fallacy. We need an industrial strategy, and no one has given us one. I get that.
You left the Labour Party, or they threw you out because you've actually got an opinion. We love the bones of you. The vultures are circling. I had this epiphany. I'm not going to call it that. I don't know what the word is. This fear this weekend. The alternative to Keir Starmer, am I right or wrong, is actually probably even more frightening than Keir Starmer.
I think if I was to be totally fair to Keir Starmer, there is a possibility, depending on what happens, that people will go in history, he wasn't that bad. And there is a slight irony, I think, about Labour MPs that hate Keir Starmer when his biggest failure has been giving them what they want. He gave in on welfare. He's not got anything through Parliament that was controversial and would have maybe cut some of the waste in this country because people didn't want to do it. They're moralistically Labour Party people, we've got to look after everybody, everywhere and do everything. And that's where he's probably failed, in not being strong enough. I think there is better options. As you know, I've been long a proponent of Andy Burnham's leadership in Greater Manchester. I think he would be a much better leader, both electorally for the Labour Party, but also for the country, someone that has ideas, has done those ideas in Manchester, and has very much a blueprint that you could roll out across the country with regards to education, with transport. The fact that he is the only, certainly Metro leader, he's had 3.1% growth over the last 10 years. Nobody else has done that anywhere. There's no growth in this country.
So but what if he's, very quickly, if he's not in Parliament, Angela, Calamity Lammy, Ed Miliband?
David Lammy will never run. Ed Miliband will never run.
Angela will.
No, Angela doesn't want to, really. Angela will be forced to run if Wes Streeting does, because that will become a battle for the
He can't win with the local. He can't win with the Labour membership, can he, Streeting?
If he's the only one, he will. And that's the problem. Who else can get the numbers other than Angela Rayner? So
fascinating.
If Wes needs to go early, because if he leaves it long enough, Burnham could get him.
I think he blew it the other day with the Samwell thing. I think that was. I think I don't think he gets in. So, have you heard the story that Mrs. Starmer's apparently left Downing Street?
No, but I can sympathise. It's a goldfish bowl. You hear of all sorts of partners that hate that thing. You know, she never. Whether she asked for a life in public service, she married a guy in public service, but it can't be nice. You're reading Everybody Hates Your Husband every day, and if you're to really humanise that, and I get people won't want to because, you know, life is crap, but ultimately it's you know, really, Jez, if I was to, again, be really fair to him, as you know, I'm no fan of his, he'd go into politics. It's a thankless job. Everybody hates you. You can't win. Your own party hates you. Potentially, I don't really want to
try doing a daytime television programme. It's much the same, to be fair.
Well, no, exactly. You're remunerated a little bit better than the politicians.
It's not about the money I do because I care. Matty, when's the baby due?
July, early July.
You not asked me to be a godfather yet? I'm shocked.
I've not yet, no.
Okay, well, keep thinking. I'm good for the presents, mate. Great to have you. Lovely to see you. Come more often. We love having you on. The legend that is Matthew Talbot. This is Talk Breakfast. Good morning.
Conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts. Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, just gone 8:30. It's Bank Holiday Monday. This is JK on Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock Brit. I was just listening in the traffic there to Milton Keynes half marathon. So if you are in Milton Keynes this morning, you might not be able to drive too quickly. Bearing in mind, of course, there's 475,000 big roundabouts. Made of concrete. 03... Gary King. That's the man that does traffic and travel. I'm sure he used to be on the radio. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Peter, Talbot still doesn't get it, does he? We voted to leave the European Union. Fair enough. Sue in Devon. Matthew, I don't want to be controlled by Europe. Sorry, that's how I see it. Matthew Ball. If Labour can unilaterally and retrospectively protect soldiers, this is a great point, why can't Reform remove immigrants and retrospectively and unilaterally change the law? Richard Catterson, with the rumours that Starmer's wife wants to move out of number 10. The nation is now wondering, what is Victoria's secret? I like that. Morning, Michael.
Hello, Jezza. It's Michael calling from Norwich. I heard Youssef from Reform talking this morning. And I'm a Reform supporter, of course. Who else is there to support? Wish Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib were with them, but got to vote Reform. There's no one else to vote for. But he mentioned getting rid of 1,500,000 illegal migrants in his parliament. Well, it's 4 years to get rid of 1.5 million people. What about the 6 million damn people that Boris let in legally, who we don't want here because most of them don't work? They need to get rid of them as well. 6 million more people.
The truth of the matter is, and I'd be completely straight, whatever your political persuasion, immigration, and I genuinely believe this, will be front and centre at the national election in 3 years or less. And actually what Matt Talbot was saying, which is interesting, is lots of political parties will say, we will do it. Lots of cynics will say, how will you do it? And I keep talking about political will. What I don't see is a politician standing in front of the British public. Farage, I'll be honest, Farage is probably the nearest to it, saying, right, let me tell you something. This is how I see it. It ain't going to be nice. There will be times when it's not particularly popular. But if you give me a mandate, right, I don't care about detractors. I don't care about laws. I'll charge the detractors. I'll change the goddamn laws because you've told me you want that doing. And I will do that. And if at the end of the day too many people don't like it, I'll disappear into the sunset knowing that I was true to what I said to the British people. I personally, as a voter, am sick to bleeding death of hearing people tell me, well, that's not possible. There's a really good text that I just read out was, we have a government through their Troubles Bill that is going back 30 years and prosecuting soldiers, men and women who donned a uniform to fight for Queen and King and country, who might or might not in today's political climate have done something that could be taken in the wrong way. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We are retrospectively, OK, going to prosecute them. So they might be in a care home at 70 or they might have an injury from doing what they did for this country, but we're going to prosecute them. And while we're at it, we're going to give immunity to the IRA. No. Will, strength, conviction. I don't care if I repeat myself. Thatcher had conviction, said what she was going to do. Maybe you disagree with it. At the end of the road, when she'd sacked everybody who disagreed with her plan, they sacked her. But she had a pair. Tony Blair at the beginning had a plan and stuck to it. And if you didn't agree with him, you got fired. We are in a cycle of politics where people are too scared to put their necks on the line. This is a really boring story, which I'm going to tell you. I sound like my dad. I have a friend who was offered an amazing job to run a national radio station 15 years ago. And he said to me, the last 7 bosses have only lasted a year. And I went, yeah? And he went, and they've all gone in there and not done anything. So what should I do? Go in there and do exactly what you told them in the interview, which is why they've given you the job. And if you get fired after a year, you'll be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, I was true to myself, and he lasted 8 years. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. We'll say a very good morning to Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakshop, brightens up my May Day bank holiday. Hello.
Good morning. Well, I can tell you that thinking is really hardening in Reform about how to deal with this crisis of mass uncontrolled immigration. And you said there you'd love a politician to stand up and say, this is what I believe, this is what we're going to do, we are going to make it happen come hell or high water. It might not be pretty, but this is what, if Reform gets into government, this is what people have voted for us to do. And look, I think you're never going to get anyone closer to that than Zia Yusuf, a potential Home Secretary. You're not going to get anyone who's bolder than Zia or indeed Nigel Farage on this issue. I think resolve is hardening. I think that the rhetoric that we're hearing in general from the public is hardening. You know, if you cast back a year ago, I would have been nervous to talk about mass deportation. Well, that is almost common ground now amongst people on the right. It's not outrageous to suggest that very, very large numbers of people who have broken the law and broken into our country need to be sent home.
No, I don't disagree. I guess my point was, the reason for my little rant there was that I think across the political spectrum, politicians have promised a lot for years, and public apathy, which started with the expense scandal and is now, I think, mired in this belief that, and we'll talk about Starmer in a minute, you know, will just say one thing to get elected. They'll come up with excuses, and every single political party that's been in power, I know Reform and other parties haven't, but that cynicism, I don't know how you deal with that, but you know, I hear it on a daily basis. You know, people will say about Reform, they'll say, yeah, that's well and good, but what about court challenges? I said in my bit introduction about the way this government's attacking soldiers. I live in a different world, Isabel. If you say to me you're in charge of this company and you've got the freedom to do whatever, I'm going to damn well do what I believe got me the job in the first place, whether it ends up with me getting the sack, because I will be able to go, do you know what? I was true to myself. That's all I think a lot of people want now.
So Reform has got lawyers all over this now. They're not going to, if they're lucky enough to get into government, they're not going to go into government with this, having made this massive pledge to the British people and then go, oh, we didn't anticipate that. There's a few court challenges. They are going to be all over this. I mean, hopefully we might get an election sooner than later. But in the meantime, there is time and scope, and there is the expertise to work out how it's done. And I totally agree with you. People are sick, fed up of politicians promising one thing in opposition, and then they get into power and it's all too difficult. And that cannot happen on this particular subject or any other, but particularly this one. Because
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
So many of our problems. Now, I know you want to move on, but you're still showing pictures now of overcrowded dinghies. And I want to pick up on what Matt said, your previous Labour, ex-Labour advisor, about the small boats. And especially the angle that is in the media today, which is about two young women who tragically lost their lives trying to get over to the UK over the weekend. Now, I just happen to have some good insider information on this. And what we know is that there are two young women, one was 16, one in her early 20s, who died over the weekend. Now, these young women did not drown. They were crushed to death on that boat. And here's the thing that no one is talking about. Far more people are dying trying to get over to the UK illegally than anyone is talking about. I know, because we've spoken to the people that work for the Border Force on these rescue boats for the UK Border Force, that they pretty regularly deal with dead bodies. Now, in this case, this sounds like it was a tragic accident, and often people are drowning before they manage to clamber on board the boat. But there is another much more sinister angle to this, which is that occasionally our rescue people are dealing with dead bodies that have quite clearly been victims of violence and have been bundled as corpses onto the boat. No one is talking about this. Why not? Because it is so horrific. And I'm afraid it undermines the whole left-wing narrative about #BeKind, these people need to come over. This is a horrific trade, and people are losing their lives on a scale that nobody yet seems to fully understand. I want to know what happens to those bodies. You know, these people aren't nobodies. At the risk of sounding a bit left-wing Guardian about it, these are real people.
Absolutely.
who have been misled into they're being exploited, and what happens?
Which actually further enhances, and I'm sure it will be jumped upon by the very people that you talk about, I call them the do-gooders, but this further enhances. There are so many different aspects to why, and the reason I'm not centering this on reform is because I'm saying this in a general way. Whether it's the vile scum that makes money out of trafficking illegals, whether it's poor people who are being offered promises and lose their lives either in the water, as you said, through violence, which is appalling, whether it's the British people who are suffering at the back of the queue because people are being brought into the country illegally and unvetted and are being given more and treated better, whether it's young girls who are being attacked by young men with different moralities roaming free in Britain's cities and on Britain's beaches. That's why this entire disgusting debacle needs sorting out. And I'm absolutely of the belief, personally, that these people who are here illegally should. I've said my bit. There will be a reconditioned, massive, great liner in the sea. Nobody would. I don't go with people who say the minute they set foot. Sorry, I'd have the Navy in the Channel. Every boat, people will be put on that liner. There will be a crack team of Border Force officials trained with an inch of their bleeding life, and in 24 hours, not 4 weeks, we would know whether they had the relevant stuff to come in red carpet or not. You're going to a detention centre, which isn't going to be nice, because I know that will send a message. Now, some people, when I say that, Isabel, go, oh, my God. No, sorry. People are dying, people are profiting, and the British people have had enough. And I just guess that in all of it, and you and I have talked about it incessantly, I think we're all at the point where we're sick to bleeding death of hearing why it can't happen or why it shouldn't happen. For example, I did an interview the other day with Lord Daniel Hannan, and I was talking to him about, I'd spoken to Liz Truss, who many people think is barking mad, but the one thing that she talked to me about, which I completely believed, was that she said that there are, the system is skewed towards what civil service want. And this text is interesting. Nicola from Norfolk listening to us saying, reforms the legal immigration detention centre plan gets my vote, but in order to enact their political will, surely they will need to deal with the issues raised in an interview with Lord Hannan last week about the dark forces in the civil service. She's right, isn't she?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, this will be an absolute battle royale if and when, we don't know what the next government is going to be, but if a government comes in that is determined to stop this racket, it will be very, very, very difficult to do. But if there's one person that can do it, it is Zia Youssef. And I'm not banging the drum for him for any reason other than I know that it's going to take someone who is hard as nails and really determined. No shrinking violet is going to be able to do this. And we know from Zia's personality that he takes no prisoners. He's been really clear on this. And by the way, I'm loving this idea that the detention centres will only be set up in green.
I've got you're going to hate me. I've got an issue with that.
Do you? What's your issue with it? Let's thrash it out.
Is that being done to punish Green voters? What are you going to say to the people in that ward or that constituency who hate the Green Party and didn't vote for them?
Well, I think let's turn it around rather differently and say this isn't just about Green voters. This is about rewarding people that voted for Reform MPs, because that is the manifesto, that is the pledge on which they stood. And everyone else, that's how democracy works, isn't it? Some people lose out. We all lose out every time. I've lost out because Keir Starmer's Prime Minister, so have you. That's how it works.
Oh, now, surely we can't do a whole interview without mentioning him. Isabel, he's gone to Armenia, which is in itself interesting. He wants to be closer to Europe, which is in itself interesting. And you're a professional and very good journalist, but I'm hearing stories that Mrs. Starmer's moved out of number 10.
Well, I heard you talking about that with Poppy this morning. I mean, it's not that unheard of for prime ministerial spouses to not much enjoy living in those quarters. It's not just that it's pretty restricted, in terms of being in the Goldfish Bowl, everyone's seeing you coming and going. I mean, the accommodation isn't your own house.
But surely she'd have known that 2.5 years ago, wouldn't she? Why she moved out now, allegedly?
Everyone's got their breaking point, haven't they?
Yes, they have.
I mean, we've reached it a long time ago with the Starmers, and I can't blame her. I think that she's probably sort of had one foot out of there for quite a long time anyway. I don't know the truth of the story, but it's ringing a bell with me that she's known to not spend that much time there anyway, and I can't say I blame her. Leave him to get on with it. I mean,
I love it. What are you doing for bank holiday? Is it a bank holiday in the UAE or not?
Jeremy, I don't do bank holidays. I work all the time. And why? Because I'm lucky enough to love my job. I love coming on talk with you, with our other presenters. I'm never off duty. The sun always shines here in the UAE anyway, so it's a normal day for me. I am hoping to pop up on lots of shows today. There's no there's no rest for the wicked. We've got.
You're not wicked. We love the bones of you. And seriously, I'm so grateful this morning. Thank you, my darling. The wonderfully, always wonderful Isabel Oakeshott. What has he just gone 8:45? Bank holiday Monday. Good morning, Anna.
Jez, Anna, sorry. I must admit, I'd gone off Reform lately. I'm a real Rupert Lowe fan. But what Youssef just said, and I must admit I'm not his #1 fan, what he just said about putting the immigrants in green areas, oh wow, that is a vote winner. That really, really is. Just another about 9 million to remove after that, Youssef. And then, wow, I will be a #1 fan. I want all of them gone. If you're not legal, you can't stay. Thank you.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We've got a young man working on the show today, Rory, and he's brilliant. Another cup of tea. What a top man. Thank you very much indeed. You're very kind. Can you take those two? You're very kind. 0344. Obviously, don't. I'll do the washing up after. Don't start. I'll do it. I'll do the washing up. Don't worry about it. 03 can't open the door with 2 cups. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Jez says, Keith, please tell me what other country in the world allows you to enter illegally and then you're given 4-star accommodation for free. You're fed and allowed to wander around under a stick to do what you want, including attacking the local population, says Keith in Oswestry. No other country in the world, Keith, but apparently we have to be very apologetic. Morning, Jez says, ads in Chester, Reform could and should change politics forever, making manifestos legally binding. Margaret. I don't know why I did that. Can you imagine Miliband in number 10? No tumble dryers, turn off all the lights. Guest? What? Yeah, right. Right, moving on. You see, people shout at me the whole time and my age shows itself. I'm delighted to be joined now. I love having this panel. General, in brackets, retired. Ben Hodges, former commander of the US Army in Europe. Ben, good morning. Welcome to Bank Holiday. How are you?
All right, Jeremy, thank you.
I wanted to get you on today, this shocking piece of news in the Times, which just about sums up my country, I'm afraid. Britain's armed forces can only, ready for this, think about preparing for war as a lack of funding has left no money whatsoever to buy any new weapons until 2030, a former military chief has warned. General Sir Richard Barron's, co-author of the Strategic Defence Review, told the Times today that the Ministry of Defence had gone backwards, Ben, since last June. When the review was published, he warned that a lack of investment was depleting the industrial base and driving defence firms abroad at a moment for my country when what's happening in the Middle East is happening, what's happening in Ukraine, and I've been very vocal on this show. I think it's been 20 years of people thinking cutting our defence was an easy take, and it has come back and backfired spectacularly on us, hasn't it, Ben?
Well, certainly the rest of us have great expectations of UK's military capabilities, your intelligence, as well as the Royal Navy and Royal Air Force and the British Army. These are decisions made by nations about where they put their money. And I think the men and women of British Armed Forces and the British people deserve better.
It's interesting to me, and the reason that, I mean, I'm very critical of this government, but I can go back now 20 years. It started with the coalition. Presumably, the governments of the day were seduced, Ben, by, you know, Cold War, and everything was fine, and have been, as I quite rightly say, caught out. In terms of looking at Great Britain now as it is to this day, you're a military man. We have no place. I mean, we're not, people will go on about the special relationship, but what can we bring to the table? Very little.
Well, look, it's never the fault of just one administration or one government. You know, we're in trouble ourselves in the U.S. We've burned through so much ammunition just over the last couple of months in the operations against Iran. This is something that's been warned about for years, and you can't fix your defense industry with just a flip of a switch. It takes investment, but it also takes the government doing things to give the industry confidence that this is not going to be a one-year thing, but that they can make long-term investments. Any business would need that sort of confidence. I'm reluctant to be critical of the actual capabilities, only because what you do have continues to be at such high quality. There's just not enough of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I've heard, but I still think the planning. Let's move it to your country. Trump over the weekend saying the US will now guide stranded ships through the Straits of Hormuz. I want to ask you a question as a military man. I don't want to make it political, actually. Iran's always been an issue for several presidents, and seemingly none have moved. Trump decided to, and I'm sure part of the bluff and bluster of Donald Trump is that he thinks that everything's going to work out, and maybe he's a genius. But the truth of the matter is, I'm astonished with my head on as a balanced human being. Did nobody in the US military warn the president that the Straits of Hormuz were going to remain under Iranian control, or however much you bombed or didn't put feet on the ground? This was actually a catalogue for disaster, because as far as I see it, and there's much that Trump has done that I admire, you're no better off than you were 65 days ago.
Well, I completely agree with you. And of course, the idea that the Iranians might actually shut down the strait has always been a known possibility. We've been wargaming this kind of a scenario for decades. I can remember even as a young officer many years ago going through wargaming exercises where this was always a distinct possibility. So to say that we never knew they might do this is completely disingenuous. I think there was an exaggerated faith that somehow if you just killed the supreme leader, that the whole thing would come tumbling down and the Iranian people would rejoice, and that would be it. It'd be pretty painless. And that was a terrible misread of what was happening on the other side.
Sometimes killing a leader works. It did in Venezuela. We're pulling him out. But when you've got an ideology so ingrained, I think, in the DNA of a people over a period of time, it's very difficult. I haven't got long, but Iran sending a 14-point plan to the US calling for the war to end in 30 days. Do you see a genuine peace, ceasefire emanating in the next few days or not?
Actually, I do not, unfortunately. I think that the both sides, both my president and the Iranian side, have demands that the other just can't accept. And so this is going to continue for quite some time until either the Iranians really do give in to the economic pressure of the U.S. Navy's blockade of their ports, or the pressure inside the U.S. becomes so great that the president looks for a way to declare victory and then walk away from it.
Mate, it's always an absolute pleasure to speak to you. We appreciate your time. Great. General retired Ben Hodges, former commander of the US forces in Europe. Thank you, my friend. It was 9 o'clock. Where's this morning gone? It's Bank Holiday Monday. I hope you're having a good... What are you doing today? It's very overcast. It's foggy. How can it be foggy in a bank holiday? 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Anunciata Rees-Mogg. She is cool. Head of comms at Popular Conservatism. She's next after the news at 9. Which is next before... Anyway, you know what I'm saying. Back in 3.
Current affairs, international news, letting criminals off while sending... Oi! Oi! You shut up! I'm trying to record something.
Stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of breaking news, challenging views. I don't give a flying damn about international law. I think people will viscerally reject this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This journey of me following the migrants went from sort of 10 in the morning, all around the clock, to late at night, to the point where, on buses, on trains, through streets, at every key point, French military police and the French police, they were there. They were on the bus, taking down notes, taking pictures, but not doing anything to deter the migrants or stop them, just being there. I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. this was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. You know, his WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy.
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Do you know, I've realised that actually, I just thought I'd ring my 6-year-old son during the news thing. I'd FaceTime him and he went, "I'm really sorry, I can't speak, I'm playing Robux," and put the phone down on me. Amazing. Welcome to Breakfast. This is Talks, the home of common sense. It is, of course, the home of the alarm clock. Brit, are you one of us that's doing the graft today, wherever you are in the United Kingdom? Isn't it great across London today? But I don't know where you are. Is it sunny? It was in Jersey. Somebody rang. Somebody was at a car boot sale and somebody was going to visit the mother-in-law. I'd take my mother-in-law to a car boot sale. That's another story. Oh, my Lord. She's listening right now. She's ironing. She's not very tall. When I gave my wedding speech, she won't mind me telling you this, Jan. I said, I looked at her and I said, "You look at your mother-in-law and that's what your wife turns into." Where's the exit door? No, I'm joking. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. We were talking to Zia Yusuf earlier about Reform's idea to hold 24,000 migrants in areas, build the detention centres in areas that vote for the Greens, be it locally or nationally with MPs. This has caused real response this morning. Morning, Jez, a brilliant vote winner for Reform. This will determine where we retire to once we sell, if we sell under this current government. Keith and Linda in Hertfordshire, in Hertfordshire. Other people are saying, hold on a minute, so what if I'm in a Green constituency and I don't vote for the Green Council and I don't vote for a Green MP, but the detention centre's going to be built there? I would say this, actually, in a sort of... God, I've sounded a bit like a pacifist this morning. I think this country, if it's going to deal with this, is going to have to accept that, a bit like building houses. Everybody goes, we need to build more houses, but not in my backyard. There's a difference, presumably, between a controlled, guarded... Well, controlled's the best way, detention centre, than putting illegal men in hotels, allowing them to run amok. Presumably a detention centre, there's a clue in the word, detention. So actually, maybe, if this country wants this problem sorted, any future government who decide to do, whether it's Reform or not, this, maybe we'll have to suck it up and swallow that, because at the end of the day, it needs to be done. What do you think of that? 0344 499 1000. Pete, good morning. Pete?
Good morning, Jezza. Great show as normal. But just with reference to your idea about ships in the middle of the channel, I spent my life at sea and I'm retired now, and I would gladly volunteer to attend a ship, work on the electrical system and go through all of these illegal immigrants and make sure they got a fair hearing. Great show as normal. Thanks again. Bye for now.
He sounded more positive about the show at the end of his message. At the beginning, good morning to Dave in Bristol. So my first daughter was born. Have you been to Bristol, Christian? Yeah, right. Don't know why I'm doing that. Jez, just a point on illegal immigrants and the deaths as a result of those channel crossings. The people traffickers are responsible for those deaths, whether they occur in the sea, in the boats or on the beaches in France. But also, successive governments are responsible for those deaths for allowing this situation to continue by not removing the pull factors, providing red carpet welcomes for migrants. All I know, peeps, is, and please do keep the messages coming, I don't believe the British people will anymore accept, we're going to stop the boats, we're going to smash the gangs, we're going to do this. We've heard it. And I'm a great believer that the British people are really tolerant. But I do believe that this is now the thing that we are least tolerant about. And that is because it impacts so negatively on so many people's lives. And I've heard all the arguments, trust me, in 3 years sitting here. I've heard all the people tell me about war-torn countries and refugee status and all that. The truth of the matter is, and if we don't have this debate, a bit like the welfare issue, we're going to fall, right, as a country. I don't even know into what sort of mire. The fact is, if you allow unvetted men with a different ideology to come into this country, not with their kids or their wives, majoritively young men who disappear into our communities, they have no respect, they don't need to learn the language or respect the rules, who break the law, but in all of that, are given more than the population that works, you're heading for a terrible situation. 0344 499 1000. We're delighted. How to brighten up my bank holiday morning. The head of comms at Popular Conservatism, Anussi Artemis. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
Well, I'm all right, really. Oh, lovely pink seat. I thought I was, I don't know, I'm rather enjoying Bank Holiday Monday, actually. I thought maybe it's just peace away from my children.
Well, not for you, but it is really lovely to have that feeling all weekend that there's an extra day.
Great. So you got drunk last night then, yeah?
No, I had a wonderfully quiet night with no kids for the first time ever.
Do you want to talk about the drink? I'm joking. You know, it's so always great to have you on. I'm going to let you pick. Do you want to start with Starmer, or do you want to start with Palansky, or do you want to start with detention centres? Those are your look at face.
I mean, I think the detention centre idea.
What do you make of reform? We had Zia Youssef on. Reform will hold 24,000 migrants in areas that vote for the Greens. We know what happened at the Bell Hotel in Epping, of course, when the local women came out and said this is dangerous. We know what's happened in Crowborough when they've taken over, I think, a military base that trained cadets. Are reform right in that this will be a detention centre? Is it a little bit petty to say we'll put it in areas that are just voted for the Greens? Is this a political statement? I made the point to Zia. What about if you live in that area and you didn't vote for the Greens? I, for one, believe we do need to detain and deport. I, for one, do not believe we should allow these people to set foot in this country. I've laid out what I would do. I think we need to be tougher. And I do believe whoever does that, right, there's going to be an outcry from the Palansky-esque left. I really do believe that.
I think you're absolutely right, but I think you made the crucial point that surely, even if you didn't vote Green and they are put in green areas, it's safer to have these people in a detention centre than it is in numerous hotels, HMOs and free on the streets, that we just don't know who they are. And the government collects very, very bad statistics on this, but there is certainly a fear in communities of these people, which looks to be based in truth, that there is a higher threat of crime in areas where there are a lot of these undocumented men. And I think we have to, A, reassure the British public, and B, keep them safe.
And I think, is that not the one of the two primary things that a government is supposed to do? And yet we're stuck in this dogma of political correctness, in my humble opinion, which says that, and I want to make this point to you, Nancy, because you will be able to answer this better than me. I actually, whatever people think, I'm all for treating people correctly, but we are at a point in this country, that treatment which has gone completely the other way is now to the detriment of the tax-paying, stamp-paying, hard-working Brits who have always grafted. And that sends the message, do you know what? Whether you want to sign on as a career or come here illegally, we're going to treat you better than we treat people who work here and pay taxes. Makes sense.
Also, on a just very fundamental basis, we have to stop the pull factors. It's no good just talking to the French and throwing hundreds of millions of pounds at them to do seemingly not very much. We need to stop people wanting to come here, that they need to know that they will be processed and removed, and that it's not disappear into the delivery driver world or the car wash world, make a better living than you would at home and get taxpayer support.
And send the money home whilst we're paying for you to do absolutely nothing. The thing for me is, I don't know how we got to this point, but it fears me. I'm 60 years of age. It fears me that we've become such apologists that what's right and honest. I mean, did you hear some people think I'm crazy, did you hear what I said about a liner in the Channel?
No, I missed that, I'm sorry.
Right, so I told your brother this, he looked at me like I'd landed from Mars. I would recondition an enormous liner at cost and I would place it in the Channel. I would put the Royal Navy and I would not allow, you said when they should be removed, I wouldn't let anybody set foot into this country until they've been processed. I would take them off the boats and put them on the liner where I would have trained a border force, not, you know, welcome to the UK, but a border force who will make decisions. If you've got the right paperwork, I'll lay out a red carpet. If not, within 24 hours, you're going to a detention centre, probably on the Orkney Islands, if I had my way, that isn't going to be horrible, but isn't going to be nice, because that will mean that you send a message back to all the other people that the softness that is the United Kingdom doesn't exist anymore. Why is that so mad? It's not.
Well, I think you raise an important point. I don't think that the British people have become too touchy-feely, wet and woolly to deal with this issue. No. I think our political leaders have. And we've now had, right the way back to the early thousands, since the EU was opened up, political leaders who think the only way to prop up the economy is to import cheap labour, which has just undercut British wages and actually cut our GDP per capita per person and been harmful, therefore. But they also have this sort of very do-gooder attitude that, well, we should be ashamed that we're a rich and great nation.
We're not. We're not. That's what I want to change in people's mind. We're not.
We're no longer anywhere near the wealthy nation we were, but also we don't have capacity, and it is not doing them a kindness to force them into people smugglers' hands, into criminal activity when they get here, working illegally, and taking away citizens from countries where they could contribute legally.
I mean, I've sat here and had people say to me, right, I love having chats like this with you. The thing is, Jez, you don't know what it's like to live in a war-torn country, to which I say, well, I don't believe in any which way that anything other than the smallest minority that come in, single men who throw their passport information 12 miles out, are coming from a war-torn country for two reasons, really. Because if I was, if we were married, it's a bit weird, and had kids, and we were living in a, not weird, living in a war-torn country, and there were bombs coming down, I wouldn't go, Nancy, I'm going off now to England to get a job and get some benefits. I'm going to leave you here. No, I grabbed my family and I'd leave the war-torn country, and the first country I got to where bombs weren't raining down on my head, I would find somewhere to settle. But no, this is not. This is predominantly men who come here for exactly what you said, the pull factor and how much we give. And you know, just to make you completely convinced that I am mad, the importing of cheap labour, that's my other thing. If you've got 8 million people on benefits, you will never convince me that all of those are mentally ill and disabled. I'd close the border and say to 2 million of them, whilst I'm paying you because you're long-term unemployed, you're going to damn well give something back. You're going to be a delivery driver, a fruit picker, a hospital porter, I don't know what. I'm sick and tired of us paying out money on both fronts, in my mind, and getting nothing in return.
We absolutely do. And I mean, looking at your point about who you would expect to be coming, when Russia invaded Ukraine, it was women and children who came. The men stayed behind to fight for their country.
Absolutely.
And if it were my husband, I think that's the way round it would be, that he would make sure that me and our children got to safety. That he's rather more gung-ho with his own life than he would ever be with ours. The idea of him deserting us is unimaginable.
Yeah.
And we know that these people are either only out for themselves, which doesn't make them great people to want in your country, or are just simply lying. And we know of example after example where the so-called human rights that they claim would be killed or crushed if they stayed in their country are fabricated. We know of the legal advisors who are showing people how to prove they're gay in countries where being gay is illegal. We are being taken for a ride, and the British taxpayer are not only funding it, but we're facing the outfall and the risks from it.
It's not going to go away, this debate. It's not going to go away. And the other point that I made this morning, and I'd love your take on, is I think the other thing that the silent majority in this country, from what I know and hear, is they're sick of platitudes and they're sick of words, because they've got to a point where they think the politicians and Seattle will only say things to get elected and then will not see it through. And I do think that moment's arrived as well. I think that people will be saying in no uncertain terms, we actually don't believe you, but if we do, you better damn well deliver, because for the last however many years, governments haven't.
They haven't at all. And it, you know, whether it's smash the gangs or stop the boats, we've heard it all. Nothing's changed. And I think it's why Keir Starmer was so badly booed by the Jewish community when he went to visit the area where 2 Jewish men were stabbed last week, because he's said it all before and nothing happens. And that Jewish community are calling out for action, not words, just as the British people are over immigration.
Couldn't agree more. Talking of him, your favourite person, Keir, he's landed in Armenia this morning. I'm not quite sure why he's gone to... Oh, yes, I do. He wants to get closer to the EU and he's going to give them £1 billion. Not that we're not skinned. And apparently Mrs Starmer might have left Downing Street.
He loves to get on with our European neighbours, particularly, I think, Ursula von der Leyen. He's facing a wipeout in local elections here of a pretty historic kind, and he's never here, so he's jetted off to where people might actually talk to him over in Europe. And this deal, this £1 billion, is just an absolute rip-off. It's to have more access to the single market, but just taking European rules and therefore having to undo any rules we've changed since we left the EU.
I'd like to take you back 3 years, but it's very important. And so this was Keir Starmer in 2023, people, only 3 years ago, about rejoining the EU. Have a listen.
I have repeatedly said that there's no case for going back into the EU, and that includes the single market and the customs union.
How are people supposed to genuinely believe a word that comes out of that man's mouth?
Well, I don't think anyone does. So you have to be a great gullible fool to believe Keir Starmer. It was also in his manifesto that we would not rejoin the single market. This is what he is doing with his chums and making us not only take the rules, but pay for the privilege. He's signed us up to the SPS rules, which are going to have huge effects on our agri-food businesses in particular, but also our bioscience, where we are substantially different in the last, since we left properly in 2020. Our rules have diverged hugely, meaning that, you know, our crop yields of wheat will go down 15% because we won't be able to use the pesticides, the fertilizers, and the gene-edited wheat crops that we can when we're not under these rules. We're looking at a £15 billion hit from that. And then he's talking about taking us into the single market rules, where again we would have no say. It won't fit British interests. It was one of the problems with when we were in the first place. And he somehow found £1 billion that would not be available unless it was his pet project.
I was going to say, what about the £1 billion and then the half £1 billion that we give to the French to do absolutely nothing? It's just £1.5 billion. Why wouldn't you say to the British people, I know you're struggling, I'll cut your bills a bit, I'll take half a pence of income tax or something, give something back to the people that are working and really essentially doing their bit?
Absolutely. Or build more prison places. Yeah. Or build more hospitals, sort out schools, which are in a terrible state. Instead, he's throwing it over the channel because he wants to grandstand on the world stage because he's so unpopular at home.
It's so nice to have you on. What's lined up in the Rees-Mogg household today for bank holiday? Are you enjoying yourselves or are you going back to bed? What's going on?
A really quiet day. I've got a daughter I need to collect from a barbecue, and then we've got to go and do the weekly food shop. That will be exciting.
I'd send the husband, put your feet up. Listen, great to have you on. Thank you so much. Annunciata Rees-Mogg, Head of Comms at Popular Conservatism. Thank you so much indeed for joining me on Bank Holiday Monday. Just gone 9:20. Who's that? Oh, let's go to Southampton. Alex, good morning. You're on Talk Breakfast. How you doing?
Good morning, Jeremy. It's actually the first time I've ever listened to your show, and I'm totally fascinated. So I shall be a regular listener from now on.
Good man. Thank you. What can we do for you, sir?
There's a couple of things. Quickly picking up on what you were just saying about Keir Starmer just now, and his wife moving out of Downing Street. His house and burn his car up.
We can't talk about this, I'm afraid. We appreciate you coming on, but there are certain things legally that may be or may be not ongoing, so I have to finish that call. Morning, Jez. A saying that might be relevant, says Steve. Men that are fleeing war take their wives and children with them. Men going to war leave their women and children at home. I think that's right, Steve. Morning to Caroline. I'm in trouble, Christian. I'm in trouble. You see, politics is... It's very easy to sit here and pontificate, but you can't please all the people all the time. Jez, you constantly say that illegal undocumented men should be moved to, example, the Orkney Islands or somewhere else in Scotland. Why? What is your reasoning or explanation for repeatedly suggesting that this is an acceptable part of the solution? Do you consider Scotland to be an acceptable dumping ground? No, no, actually, yeah, don't just... Christian, help me out. He's just left the... No, you're right. Why should I say Scotland? I suppose I suggest the Orkney Islands because I think there's nothing there but midges. But there are, obviously. And there's the issue, Caroline, which I will face up with you, which is, if you're going to deal with this, where are you going to build a detention centre that is the Falkland Islands? But then I'll upset the Falkland. Now, I get your point completely. You're absolutely right. I say it like that because I think it's far away, but it's your home. I completely agree, which opens up the whole debate about if a particular government coming in is going to deal with this, and that's why Reform's idea of holding migrants, building detention centres in green controlled areas, not sure about that, but I would say this, actually, then. I think all of us, if we're going to deal with this problem... Christians look at me thinking, how are you getting out of this? It's easy. I'm not getting out of it, it's being honest. All of us are going to have to accept that there might be a detention centre somewhere near where we live if we get to a point where this problem is ever going to be fixed. It's not the end of the road. Did I do all right there, Christian? He's just left the studio. Merv's in Wiltshire. Jez, with respect, the areas that vote Green would want them there. Sadly, we all have to put up with things we didn't vote for. Thank you very much indeed, Merv. Phew. Calm in Dorset, is it? It's tough if you live in a green area. The people of Crowborough didn't vote for this, and the illegals are wandering their streets free to intimidate. I tell you one thing I absolutely know. This problem's going nowhere. Pete in County Durham, good morning, Jeremy. He says, just heard the sad news about the death of 4 migrants attempting crossing the Channel. Is it not time that we used health and safety control to stop any attempts to get into a small boat for their own personal safety and recruit a team of lawyers and judges to ensure that they and all who fail to stop them, including the French gendarmes, are breaking the law if they risk leaving shore? Do you know what, Pete? That's the sort of thing that I say, and then people will say to me, well, that's not going to work. That's not going to work because there'll be lawyers on the French side and lawyers on the... It's just, to me, it's just a point of no return here, right? I honestly, and I thought Annunciata Rees-Mogg made the point, look what we did in the Ukraine war. Women and children came and we opened our homes. Undocumented men coming to this country with different views, right? It's not going to work. I'm not going to name the town. I went to a town I hadn't been to before to take my son for his theory test. I could not believe what I saw. Up and down the high street, you could see these are undocumented men from a different country, OK? That is an absolute fact. Something has to give. Why the heck are Border Force called Border Force, says Adi. They clearly don't protect our borders. They should be called Welcome Back to Britain. Hi, Jez. These detention centres will either not happen or work. If the money is there to build and run them, why can't new hospital prisons be built as well? Jay in Brighton. This is Talk Breakfast. Morning, Kelvin.
Good morning, Jeremy. 3 things I'd do if I was in government over migrants. 1, I'd stop all the benefits, the hotels, and tell them they're going to get nothing. That'll help stop them from coming over. With all these people that go on the streets ranting and raving and shouting refugees are welcome here, I'd round all them up. I'd look in the bank accounts. If they're on benefits, I'd stop the lot. So that's what I'd do anyway. Bye.
Mr. Speaker, I know many members across the House will find these facts to be incredible. To that, I can only say they are right. It beggars belief that throughout the whole timeline of events, officials in the Foreign Office saw fit to withhold this information from the most senior ministers in our system in government.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. Just approaching 9:30, so Talk today lines up Alex Phillips on from 10, Mark Dolan from 1, and Kevin O'Sullivan on Drive this afternoon from 4. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Jez, my stepson, has been given notice to quit his city centre flat along with others in the house. The landlord has decided to take advantage of the government's housing scheme, and 5 young illegals have already moved in. Another 5 will be coming soon. They send out for expensive takeaway meals and laugh as they take selfies in their new clothes. They send the photos to their friends back home. This, surely, will only encourage more people the same to come over. Maggie's in London. If Starmer can overthrow a democratic vote to leave the EU, can't we, the British public, overturn a democratic vote that got him into number 10 in the first place? Probably not. It's called civil war. Hello to Ben from Surrey. My bank holiday plans are add the final touches to my Year 11 assembly for tomorrow. Oh, here we go. Another teacher saying they have to... No, I'm joking. Give the car a wash. Nice. Grab a coffee and take a walk round Virginia Water, then round off the day building some Lego in my shed. By the way, those 2 police officers were brave and did a great job. Doesn't that sound nice? The Lego in the shed I need to talk about there. Is that on your own with your children? Yeah, how old are you, Ben? If you are playing Lego, you shouldn't be driving a car. And if you are building Lego, you're teaching Year 11. No, I don't know. Listen, a lot of people, maybe Lego's therapeutic, is it? Have you got Lego, Christian? Used to. Yeah, I used to have an Action Man. I used to go scuba diving down the toilet. Around the U-bend. It's another story. Julian's in Newport. Good morning, Julian. He says, Jez, has Mrs S left Downing Street because her husband spends so much time going to other countries? Probably. Hello to Betty. Ooh, morning, JK. Welcome back. What do you mean, welcome back? Was it last week? The snap election is just number 10 trying to scare the backbenchers to support. Labour MPs are more obsessed with keeping their state gravy train ticket. Just gone 9:30. Let's say hello to a voice of maturity and vision and expertise. Former political editor of The Sun. A very good bank holiday morning to Trevor Kavanagh. Hello, Trev. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. I'm well, thank you.
You've seen this piece on reform in the Mail that has created huge controversy this morning. Zia was on at 8, Zia Youssef, saying that in a quest to get rid of over 1.2 million migrants, illegal migrants, in 5 years, if reform are voted in, they're going to build detention centres to hold 24,000 migrants at a time, but they're going to build them in areas that vote Green. Several people have responded by saying, isn't that a bit unfair if I live in a constituency or an area that is Green but I didn't vote for them? My view, just before I hear yours, is that I guess we're all, if this problem is ever going to be dealt with, we're all going to have to swallow something here, aren't we?
Yes, I suspect we will. Whatever happens, we're going to have to swallow a lot. I like one of your callers who rang in earlier to say that it doesn't make much difference to Zack Palansky's followers because most of them be members of the same sort of community as those who would be joining them in the detention centres. So perhaps they'd be welcomed as extra voters for him if they get the chance. But, this is a problem which has to be dealt with eventually. And the longer we leave it, the more difficult it's going to become to actually deal with. You're simply not going to get rid of hundreds of thousands of illegal channel crossing migrants who have come here for the benefits that we've seen are blossoming at a huge rate in this country, mainly to people from the Asian subcontinent and the Arab world.
How do we... listen, you and I have talked about this. I mean, I've sort of approached it this morning that the British people will no longer accept purely platitudes, and they've lost the belief, I think, in all politicians that anybody's going to have the political will or just the strength, the conviction to face down the negative forces and do something about it. Because I don't know about you, I'm sick and tired of hearing how this is getting worse and we're doing nothing, Trev. There must be something we can do.
Well, there is something we can do. We can vote out the people who are burdening us with this enormous long-term social and economic problem. But we're not, by the look of it, we're going to be voting in very large numbers for Zack Palansky's Green Party. And he stands for everything that Jeremy Corbyn once stood for, and worse.
But do you know why I think it's worse? Just jumping in, we had this about 6:30 this morning. There isn't a part of me that would agree with anything that Jeremy Corbyn stood for. But there was a sort of grudging belief or admiration after that election. He got 34% by standing full square behind what he believed in. What I think is dangerous about Palansky is he strikes me like the Just Stop Oil lot, the middle classes who jump on the back of the latest controversy to garner support. That doesn't mean it's genuine belief, does it?
No, I must say that I don't share your view about Jeremy Corbyn. The fact that he believed wholeheartedly in the rubbish that he espoused doesn't... No. What he believed in, I think, is rubbish. But I genuinely believe, is what I was trying to say, that he believed in it. I don't think Zack Palansky believes in anything other than saying something to get a vote. No, I agree absolutely with what you say about Jeremy Corbyn as a person who believes in stupid things. And I also believe you're right about Zack Palansky, who is a failure in everything he's ever done, except indeed populism and politics. He has been remarkably successful in gulling the entire left of centre, green supporting, migrant supporting, substantial part of the electorate that believes that he is the new Messiah. And I simply cannot believe that hundreds of thousands and possibly many millions of voters actually believe that this man, who is a total fraud as soon as you start listening and looking at him, could be the next leader of possibly a coalition government. I mean, I'm with you, and you know, one tries very hard to look at the facts. This response after 2 police officers responded to a knife attack on 2 Jewish men last week. We have to be careful. You'll know this because the guy's been charged. But the truth of the matter is, instead of and I've been critical, you have, of the police, but instead of saying, what a terrible situation to have a man wielding a knife with a backpack on that could or could not have had explosives in it, we don't know. They brought this man, brought him down and he was arrested and will face the justice. All we get from Palansky and his mob is, wasn't that a bit heavy-handed? And I always come back to the personal thing. I wonder if that had been a member of Palansky's family that had been stabbed. I wonder whether his response would have been better. But even then, I think he'd probably have preferred to be talking about something that he thinks is going to gain him traction. That's not the way to behave. I think you're absolutely right. And, you know, when you talk about police facing someone with a knife in their hand, ready to use it, and indeed had already used it, it is a terrifying thing. And I have been in the unfortunate position of facing a man with a knife on one occasion. It came to nothing, but I can tell you that seeing that blade pointed at me was a very frightening thing. So I absolutely applaud the police for what they did, and whatever means are necessary to get that knife out of his hand were acceptable as far as I'm concerned. You made a point just then, though, that you and I would share absolutely. If you look at national opinion polls, I'm not talking about the local elections, it's not right for us to do so. We're in a position where that will take place. But nationally, I read opinion polls now that say from 15 to 18%, sometimes bigger, which means that almost a fifth of my country, Trev, is swallowing this green... I mean, I joke when I say not a mention of a tree, but there's nothing environmental about them. This is a party that now houses, surely, all the Marxist, socialist, left-wing, I'm going to say weirdos, you know what I mean, from the Corbynistas. That's what this is. That's where the popularities come from. These aren't environmental candidates. Zack Palansky doesn't give a toss about the environment, does he? No, I think he's never mentioned it that I can recall. You see, we have in the supporters of the Green Party a combination of voters. Some are beguiled by his views about basically allowing migrants in no matter how many they want to come and whether they're documented or otherwise. And there are those who simply want anything but Labour, anything but the Tories, anything but reform. They're not looking at the policies or the people who are going to represent that party or what the consequences will be if they get a foothold on power. But they need desperately to start paying attention, because this is something that in the next few days we're going to learn is going to have a major power play in our national politics.
Couldn't agree more. Just quickly before we let you go to enjoy your bank holiday, my friend. Local elections days away, and Starmer's disappeared off to Armenia to betray the Brexit vote. We read £1 billion in return for us having closer links, presumably the trade agreement. Matthew Torbett was saying earlier, 4% of GDP disappeared down the toilet when we left. This is a cheap amount of money when you consider what it'll give us. Your response to that, Trevor?
Well, I'm sorry to disagree with my friend Matthew, but we made a terrible mistake by not making the fullest use of our decision to leave the European Union and cruise away and start developing our own economic, independent, sovereign economic development and making the best of it. We could have been in a much, much better position. We were thwarted. We have to remember this. We were thwarted by the pandemic, by COVID.
Yeah.
That threw us way off track, just as we were about to get into our stride. Our economy was really going great guns at that moment. And had we grasped that nettle at the time and run with it, we wouldn't be thinking about going back into the European Union.
I think that's a really good point.
At any price.
I think that's a really good point, because Matt will say, you know, it didn't happen. I said earlier, Trev, I voted, cards on table, to leave because I believe that this country, an island that had done so much for itself, could, if it got its act together, become successful and make things and become a leader industrially, like we've done before, a bit like Germany did after the Second World War. I mean, I always make that analogy. But you're right, pandemic and governments who didn't have the courage to see it through, we're now on our hands and knees saying to the European Union, who undoubtedly want money and will punish us, will want to withdraw. But then the cynic in me says that Starmer doesn't really care. He's just trying to toady up to his European friends, isn't he? Looking for the job that will come when he's thrown out of 10 Downing Street.
And indeed the 60% of Labour supporters who desperately want to get back into the European Union. Yeah. He's chasing votes, and he also believes that the European Union, which is a failed superstate,
absolutely,
will be the answer to our problems. Our problems were, we didn't have problems until COVID. We had an economy that was motoring. We had what was described at the time as a jobs miracle. Now we have a total jobs catastrophe, thanks to this Labour government. It's nothing to do with the European Union or whether we're a member of it. It's this government and previous governments which have given up the ghost.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Have a wonderful rest of your bank holiday. Enjoy, and thank you as ever for your time. Former political editor of The Sun, Trevor Kavanagh. Very quickly to the break with Alison. I fully expect Starmer to grant amnesty to every migrant in this country the day before the next election. I want the next government to buy the homes next door to Starmer Balls, Lammy and Rees and turn them into HMOs. That'd be fun. This is Talk Breakfast.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. So Alex Phillips from 10, Mark Dolan from 1, and Kevin O'Sullivan from 4 on Talk. That's your Bank Holiday Monday lineup. Good morning, Jez. We've just been told our dentist is no longer an NHS dentist and is going private. To stay with them, it will cost £600 a year for me and my husband, yet migrants get free dental care. How the hell is that fair? Migrants, they really have to stop all these free things given to these people. I have a friend who works with a guy who is from another country who claims for his wife and children they don't live with him, and he sends the money home. Oh, my God. Aid says, Jez, we're looking at this wrong. We don't need detention centres as such. You take your liner in the channel. Every single one is dumped on it. If they've thrown their papers away, it's an immediate return to France. If they've got genuine papers, the small minority, a smaller, efficient force processes those of value. Every single one is returned. You could streamline this within a week. Morning, Jez. A great show as always. I'm an alarm clock Brit. We got the day off and still up listening. Anyway, PM Pinocchio is sneaking in to eat the EU to pave the way for a lucrative job once he's fired. And it's Dan from Leek in Staffordshire. And yes, I've been for a leak. I live in Leek, Jez, and yes, it's always raining, which is why my house has leaks. Lots of leaks with Dan. 0344 499 1000. I read an astonishing story about my next guest this week inside the Oval Office. We're delighted to welcome Daily Mail journalist and author of Elizabeth II in Private in Public, The Inside Story. Welcome to Robert Hardman. Robert, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy.
Before we talk about all sorts of things, tell that story. I was reading about it. I was enthralled about you'd been invited to meet the president and then everything happened and you thought it was no-go and then you were at the airport and you got a call. Tell us more. It's brilliant.
Well, that's right. I mean, it just shows the way things can suddenly turn around and your day changes. I had been due to meet President Trump on just over a week ago. Because I've just written a book, as you say, about Elizabeth II, and I'd interviewed President Trump for the book about 4 months ago. I went down to Mar-a-Lago and had several interviews with him there for the book. So I obviously wanted to give him a copy of the book. That was all supposed to happen. Then the shootings happened in Washington. It was all called off. And I thought, well, there we are. I mean, I won't get to it. I'll probably just have to stick it in the post. And carried on covering the royal tour. I was about to leave Washington and got a message saying, actually, yeah, the president will see you at 5:45 this afternoon. So quick screech of tyres, U-turn at the airport, back into town. And, yeah, I was ushered into the West Wing and then inside the Oval Office where he was very friendly. And we had a bit of a chat. And, yeah, he liked the book. He tweeted very generously about the book, actually, on his Truth Social post. Said, congratulations, it will be a bestseller. So, okay, thanks very much. That was very kind of him. And, yeah, we talked about a little bit about, I mean, he was very, very pleased with the way the state visit had gone.
I was going to ask you about that from our point of view, Robert, watching it unfold, and you were there. I thought, and it probably doesn't sound the right thing for a 60-year-old man to say about a monarch, I thought he came of age. I thought what the king did so brilliantly in those 4 days was reinvent in a lot of people's minds what was good about the monarchy after all the negative headlines and all the stuff we've had to deal with, which has pushed a lot of people to say it's irrelevant. I thought it was utterly supreme, and not only did he have Donald Trump eating out of his hand, but I just think he reminded people of how important they can be.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Jeremy. I mean, they are our greatest soft power asset. There is no question about that. For my book, I interviewed the man who invented soft power, codified it, Professor Joe Nye of Harvard, and he said in Britain you have two top soft power assets that nobody else has got, and that will always make Britain matter. And one is the English language, Shakespeare, and all that literary heritage, and the other is the royal family. And we see it here. You just see these scenes here. I mean, this really mattered to Donald Trump. It was huge news in America. And I've been writing about the monarchy for many years. And in years gone by, people used to say that America, Prince Charles, as he was then, doesn't break through in America. It's Diana territory, and they're not really interested. But this week they were extremely interested. I mean, right across the media spectrum in America, this was a big deal. The whole Congress was packed. I was in Congress for the King's speech. 12 standing ovations, and he was being very kingly, if I can put it that way. Very.
He also seemed to be. He seemed to have a. It sounds awful, but he seemed to have a cheeky little smile. He seemed to be on the front foot, and I just thought it was a. I want to get political with you, but I thought it was an absolute lesson. Look, of course, Trump is Trump, and people will have divided opinions, but you can see the awe in which that man, who holds awe for nobody, it seems, just was in the presence of the King and the Queen. Is it true, by the way, that did you say that he keeps a reproduction of Queen Elizabeth II's final official portrait in his Mar-a-Lago residence in Florida?
Yes, yeah. No, when I went to see him, he actually sort of almost asked for my advice. He'd bought he'd been given by the artist a copy of the last painting for which the late Queen sat in the last months of her life. She sat for the artist Basia Hamilton at Windsor, and the original of that painting hangs at Windsor Castle. But the same artist went on to paint Donald Trump, told him about it, and he said, "I'd love to have a copy." And so she sent him one. And he was, when I was there, he was trying to work out where to put it in Mar-a-Lago. He decided he didn't want to put her in a room with any other portraits. He said she should be in a room all on her own. I don't want her sort of competing with anyone. And Mar-a-Lago has quite a lot of portraits of President Trump, among other things.
There's a surprise. There's lots I want to ask you about the Queen and the book. I just want to ask you, how long were you with President Trump?
Well, when I saw him 4 months ago, I had breakfast with him and a couple of dinners and drinks. I mean, we had a few hours of chat time. This time around, I mean, obviously he's busy. When he's in the Oval Office, he's running, the country. So it was a short meeting.
What's he like, Robert?
He's a big man. You walk in and he's a very commanding presence. He's friendly. He's impulsive, instinctive. If he likes you, then he's very engaging. He's very sharp. He's alert. Before I tried to I was just sort of presented him with my book, and it was like, well, hang on a sec, I'm just going to check through it a bit. He wanted to look himself up in the index, see the sort of tone of it. I thought, oh golly, I wonder which bit he's going to look up, because there are bits in there where I did talk about the situation in Canada, for example, but he was perfectly happy with it. And I did notice with him when I met him for obviously a greater length for the book. He's very sharp. He's very alert. Everyone wants to talk to him about different things all the time. And he's quite good at managing sort of 5 or 6 different conversations. But he doesn't sort of meander off and then forget where he starts. He will always sort of bring it back. He calls it the weave. So at one point, for example, he went off on a story about, we were talking about ambassadors, and then it turned into an ambassador who got bitten by a snake, and then we went off down a sort of 20-minute rabbit hole on poisonous snakes, and he's quite an expert on snakes, and I just thought, where is this going? And then at the end he said, you're probably wondering where this is going. Well, that's the weave. And so he took it straight back to where we started, which was talking about this ambassador. So he likes to hold court. He's at Mar-a-Lago, it's his home. One wing of it is his private home, and the rest is a sort of country club, beach club, really. It's by the sea. But most evenings he likes to sit out on the terrace and eat. He could go and sit in private. Doesn't have to sit there being looked at by everybody else. But he likes to have a table in the middle of the terrace, see what's going on, sort of see people. I mean, he's not unlike a sort of an old style monarch, sort of holding court in his palace.
Here's a question, and the book is, by the way, people, go and buy this. Elizabeth II in Private in Public, the inside story. You'll know about my father and how much of a royalist in. Quick questions for you, Robert. What would she have made of her son's trip, those 4 days?
She'd have been extremely proud. I mean, for her, the relationship with America was absolutely crucial, because she grew up as a teenager worrying that at any minute the country was going to be invaded and the family were going to be put up against a wall and shot. And for her, America represented salvation. America coming into the war, joining forces with Britain was absolutely epicentral to world history. And then the glamour of it. She loved America. She loved Hollywood. So she grew up with those sort of sentiments. And all through her life, she was, when the relationship with America got a bit rocky, as it is at the moment politically, she would be dispatched to the US to sort of patch things up. So after the Suez crisis in 1956, what did we do? We sent Elizabeth II on a state visit to the US. And just like King Charles, she was welcomed with open arms in Washington, in New York. In those days, there were things like ticker tape parades. Sadly, those don't happen anymore for security reasons. But no, she would have been thrilled with the way it's gone. She wouldn't have been surprised. I mean, Prince Charles, as was a very accomplished statesman in his own right.
He was.
I went around the world with him all over the place, and he was very good at dealing with everybody from 24-carat dictators to sort of world heroes like Nelson Mandela.
I think that was my point, that it superseded. His jet hadn't taken off for Bermuda when Trump was slagging off Starmer again, and that's separate. But what was obvious was that there was respect in terms of who he is and what he does, and that was important for us. What would she... I know you don't want to probably talk about it, but there you go. What would she make of Harry and Meghan? There was an enormous... Did you see that Saturday Night Live sketch where they did a joke and they said that the reason King Charles had gone... I'm going to play this to you, Robert. This is brilliant. Just watch this briefly.
King Charles visited the U.S. to mark the 250th anniversary of American independence from Britain and to seek the release of a British hostage being held by an American terrorist. King Charles also presented President Trump with the original bell from a British submarine and said, "Should you ever need to get a hold of us, just give us a ring." Or Trump could just call the guy saved in his phone as Andrew Island.
Brilliant. Robert, the Harry and Meghan thing, much has been said about the Queen, and she adored her grandsons, but in truth, what would she have made of what has happened between those two, and certainly, in my opinion, what that woman's done to that boy?
Well, she was, we know, and I'd go into this in my book, but I mean, she was very sad and very disappointed. She felt she'd really pushed the boat out to make Meghan welcome, to ensure that she had a proper sort of royal career, gave her patronages that mattered a great deal to the Queen herself, things like the patron of the Association of Commonwealth Universities, very old organisation. And they had a great future ahead of them on a plate, but chose to throw it away. I think the Queen, she was a very Christian person. I mean, she wasn't vindictive. She's just very sad about it, but also very pragmatic. I mean, in every regard, she would be practical, and she could see that being half royal in and out when you feel like it was just not going to work. It was an either or, and they chose to be out. And then when the couple then did that extraordinary TV interview and effectively accused the royal family of racism, the Queen came out with one of the best lines of her entire life. Recollections may vary.
Couldn't agree more. Robert, listen, I could talk to you all day. We know how busy you are. People, listen, the book is astonishing. Elizabeth II in Private in Public and the Inside Story. Robert Hardman, thank you so much for sharing that with the listeners. And thank you very much, Steve, for watching and listening this morning. That was the Bank Holiday edition. Well, an attempt at a programme by myself. We're back tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock. Stand by for Alex Phillips. Then it is Mark Dolan. Then it's Kev O'Sullivan. Have a good bank holiday. Off. I'm going home because I live there. Ta-ra. Starmer fueling anti-Semitism?
I don't think he's doing anything to deal with anti-Semitism. The attempt to gaslight the British people and the Jewish community is appalling.
This has to stop. It's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.